Hi, welcome back guys. This is your sensei, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Naruto and Kyubbi Refuse to Die. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic.
I open my eyes at the sound of an alarm clock, a continuous chirping too loud for my ears. I shut off the infernal device and look around sleepily, lifting my head from the warm pillow. What I see is a messy old room with posters on the walls and battered-looking furniture scattered all around. I groan. "You did it again, bastard," I say, and the only answer I receive is a soft cackle in my mind. The bed creaks under my weight as I roll around and on my back and stretch my limbs with a content sigh. I remain like that for a long minute, thinking about what happened and what will happen. Another sigh, this time of tiredness, escapes my lips. The fox meddled with my life and death again. I stand up and walk swiftly to the calendar on the wall near the door. It's unnecessary, I know, but I have to. I look at it and follow the numbered days marked with a red X until I find the first without one. There is a scribble instead that says, "First step to become Hokage, Genin exam." Kick their ass. I can't help but chuckle a little despite having read it countless times. I step into the little kitchen and grab the first edible thing visible. Strangely enough, it's a cup of instant ramen. I chuckle again. What a fanatic I was. My loyal jumpsuit waits for me on a chair near the bed. It smells of wood and rain, and faintly of blood. I put it on anyway. My sense of smell is quite above average. I doubt someone could notice anything, with the exception of an Inuzuka, of course. When my weapons are finally fastened to my belt and holsters, I climb out of the window and onto the roof of the building harboring my little apartment. Slowly gaining speed, I jump over the shop nearby, and then on the next, using tiny bursts of chakra under my feet. The hidden village of the leaf flies rapidly past me and I watch it with something akin to affection. Konoha is waking up under the early morning sun, and its people are already wandering around. I jump from roof to roof with a smile on my face. It's good to be young again. No aches in my bones, no migraine, and no omnipresent tiredness. I'm strong, full of energy, and for the first time in this life, I completely understand and agree with all the babbling words of Mato Guy and Rock Lee about the power of youth. I almost shout something on those lines as I land on a chimney and pump a grain of chakra in the muscles of my legs before jumping high in the sky and toward another building. A knowing cackle resounds in my head, and it's clearly contagious because I find myself laughing as well. "You're all talk," a derisive voice whispers in my mind. "Shut up, Fox. Don't ruin this peaceful moment for once," I say. "One day you too will be tired of all this and you will let me rest." "Brat," he answers, and I roll my eyes at the inappropriate word. I'm meant to be immortal and that will not change. Now, be a good boy and start the carnage already. I snort. Brat was already too much, but to call boy someone who has lived for thousands and thousands of years is absolutely ridiculous. If he didn't travel back in time himself, then the Kyubbi would be younger than me. The carnage, as you call it, will probably take years to start, I say with a touch of annoyance in my internal voice. And I don't know if I'll take a part in it. I can see him grinning. "You will." Ignoring an immature, yet immortal demon fox is always the best solution, as I learned through the centuries, so I simply continue jumping over the streets of Konoha, enjoying the sunlight and the breeze. I wonder what will happen this time. What team will I be in? Who will be my teammates? Who my sensei? There's no real answer to that, I know. It could be everything, it had been everything. If life taught me anything, it's that it can always surprise you. Living thousands of years helps a little, sure, but it can't give you all the answers, fortunately. What a boring existence it would be if it wasn't like that. I can't help but be partially grateful to the fox. If it hadn't been for his stubborn refuse of death, then I wouldn't have done, seen, learned, and loved many, many things. I would have died that long past day in my bed in the Hokage residence. At the time, I thought I had lived a long and full life. And it was true. I had. But all is relative except the stubbornness of a demon that is just too much from every possible point of view. The Kyubbi didn't accept death that day, and somehow, he never tells me how, he dragged our entwined souls back in time to my 12-year-old body, nearly 90 years in the past. And a life followed another one, and another, and another, an uncountable number of times. And whenever that inescapable day had come, the day I was to die, the fox saved his very sorry ass and a less sorry mind to start over again. I'm grateful, really, but every so often, that from my point of view means something like every third existence, I feel tired of it and just want to rest. To die, if you wish. My last life had been one of the happiest I remember, therefore I asked, threatened, begged the Kyubbi to let us die. You know when you say end with a bang. Sort of. But here I am again, ready for another life I didn't want. Keyword being didn't. Now, I don't know. Yesterday I was a wrinkled old man, weak and tired. Today I'm young, strong, and feeling unstoppable. A new life of infinite possibilities stands before me, bright and full of promises. Why shouldn't I enjoy it? Now I'm here and it would be utterly stupid to waste this chance, whether I wanted it or not. I let myself fall from the roof I was on and into the street, and begin walking calmly and confidently toward the not too far away Ninja Academy. The first glare hits me when I turn the first corner, an old lady who narrows her hateful eyes from the front door of her shop. I look at her confused for a moment. Then I remember. Oh yeah, I'm not Hokage anymore. At the moment I'm the demon brat who killed hundreds of shinobi and villagers. I'm the cause of the death of the beloved Yondaime. I have probably painted this woman's house orange or something not too long ago. The glare doesn't hurt me anymore, it hasn't for many, many lives. I understand now how she feels, and despite knowing she is the one in the wrong, I don't really blame her. It's not her fault. It's no one's probably. Passing by, I smile at her and bow a little. I register the surprise in her expression before I look in front of me again. I encounter other villagers before reaching the ninja academy. Every one of them glares at me and all they receive is a polite smile and a little bow. Their reactions are amusing in a way. They startle, tilt their heads and look at me funny. They probably think I'm up to something. I snicker a little at that thought as I pass through the iron gates of the academy. I'm fairly early for the exam, but there are other students already. It's an important day after all, the day of the genin exam. On my right, leaning on a tree, is a BGMI Shino. As I approach him, I feel his gaze on me, concealed by his sunglasses. Hi Shino. I greet him with a grin and a cheerful wave of the hand. We're good friends. In some lives, we've been teammates many times, but that doesn't say much considering I have been in a team with possibly every Konoha ninja, and not only those my age. Anyway, what matters is that we've been teammates in my last life. It's always the last life that matters, the last in the first. A little like sex. Anyway, before I woke up in this new existence, there passed no day during which someone didn't talk about the infamous teammate, a BGMI, Hyuga Uzumaki. Uzumaki, he answers with a light nod of his head. I notice he's a little stiffer than usual, and you notice these little things after a lifetime or more as his best friend, but I don't know if it's because of the approaching exam or because of my presence. I remember we never talked very much in the academy years. How are you and your Kikai bugs? I ask, peering behind the high collar of his jacket where the little insects usually concentrate when he isn't hiding them. Sure enough, some are buzzing there, flying in and out of the coat. We are ready to perform at nearly 100% of our potential, he answers seriously, and I grin at him. Perfect. Good luck with the exam then. I walk off as he nods somewhat hesitantly, seemingly uncertain about where the loud boy known as Uzumaki Naruto has gone. I think he won't be the only one wondering about that. I make my way to the actual entrance of the academy where I spotted another very familiar face, one sporting a vertical red mark on every cheek. And Kiba turns immediately toward me, a smirk playing on his lips. On top of his head, Akamaru barks once. Hey Naruto, do you plan on failing for the third time straight? The boy asks with little to no malice. Ah, very funny dog boy, I reply with a smirk of my own. Sorry to disappoint you, but today I'm here to kick everybody's ass. I chuckle at myself thinking that the 12-years-old Naruto would have really said something like that, if a little louder. Both Kiba and Akamaru seem amused, I'm sure for different reasons than mine. And how will you do that? You won't even be able to kick the ass of one of your sick clones, he exclaims, much to the amusement of those within earshot. I remember that my pathetic-looking clones were quite famous during my academy years, like a class joke or something. I also remember how even a humiliating thing like that made me feel somewhat acknowledged in a bittersweet way. I just smile at him as he turns around when someone taps him on the shoulder. I'm rather eager to dispel my cage bunshin just to receive his memory of Kiba's shocked expression at the sight of my clone standing behind him with a large grin on his face. The Inuzuka actually freezes on his spot, and I notice that other students are watching the scene in awe. I apparently didn't use any seal, and not just apparently, my clone appeared out of thin air producing neither smoke nor sound, and he actually touched Kiba's shoulder, proving his solidity and consequently his abnormality. Not so sick after all, hey Kiba, the cage bunshin says haughtily. Now bend down a little so I can kick right where the sun doesn't shine. The clone's speech seems to break the silence around us and someone starts snickering. I take a step forward and punch him on the head, dispelling him. What a smug smartass, I complain with a disapproving frown as his memories pass to me. I smile widely at the image that flows in my mind of Kiba and Akamaru utterly shocked and with their mouths hanging open. How did you do that? Asks the dog boy, recomposing himself. Well, first you lift your arm, then you close your hand in a fist, and finally you bring it down. Not that. How did you do a solid clone? Kiba interrupts me annoyed, before murmuring under his breath. Now who's the smartass? I smile a little. It's called Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. It's a different jutsu than the one used to create a normal bunshin, and it actually requires different seals. I refrain from offering to teach him the advanced technique because I know he could not manage it with his low chakra reserves. I don't even think he would accept my help right now. Kiba is a rather proud person, and on top of it, he's quite the stubborn one. Years and years of friendship taught me that. Well, not only that, more like a complete outline of his entire personality. I'm gonna enter and take my seat now. Good luck with your exam. I don't give him time to answer as I run into the building and out of sight. I seem to remember the conversation I had with him, probably because it happened in some of my past lives. But I can't be sure. Living thousands and thousands of years, I tend to forget the little things. The classroom is already half full of students. I recognize most of them as future shinobi of the leaf. Those whose faces I don't remember had probably given up their ninja career or were killed by the time I became Hokage and ordered everybody around. Sure, I didn't always make Hokage in my past lives, but it happened so many times, I'm positive I know every possible man or woman who can become a shinobi of Konoha. Hi everybody, I shout, drawing attention to me. The buzzing of the various conversations stops for a moment as I wave my hand in greeting before all the students go back to what they were doing. I make my way to the last row of seats in the back of the classroom. Hyuga Hinata is already there, a pretty blush on her face as she pushes her forefingers together in a nervous gesture. Oh what, how much cuter could she get? I sit beside my many times wife and mother of my children. Last time I saw her, it's not a particularly happy memory. Watching her die slowly and painfully in our bed had been bad. No wound, no blood, nothing visible. Just a quite normal disease affecting an old body too tired to defend itself. It's always much, much worse when it happens like that. The feeling of helplessness always seems stronger in those instances. Sharper. I watch her now, young and well, safe. I smile and bury those morbid thoughts under layers and layers of happy memories. It's easy. They are much more. Hey Hinata, how are you? I refrain from adding Chan to her name, as I usually did in the vast majority of my past lives. She will have a hard time not passing out even without the familiar form of address. Sure enough, she ducks her head, her cheeks almost a shade of purple as she presses her forefingers even harder. Hi in Naruto. I am fine, thank you, she stammers in a small voice before taking a deep shaking breath. How are you? I feel great, I exclaim excited. I know she loves it when I act confidently. She feels confident herself when I do. Today we'll show these weaklings how strong we are. Right, Hinata? She blushes more if that was even possible, and I fear she won't resist much longer. Still, she nods energetically. Yes, I smile at her, and she notices it when she darts her white eyes furtively over to my face. She seems to be almost transfixed for a moment, her mouth partly open in a dreamy expression, before she quickly lowers her gaze on her still pressing forefingers. I take the fact that she doesn't faint as a good sign. We're not at touching level yet. She probably would die of a heart attack if I put my hand on her shoulder, and we probably won't be for months, especially if we aren't in the same team. Our conversation is interrupted when the bell begins ringing, warning all the students about the incoming start of the exam. After a couple of seconds, a stream of frantic, hopeful ninjas crashes into the classroom, and after a little incident involving the two seats next to one Uchiha Sasuke, everybody seems ready, more or less. Yumino Iruka walks in with a block of sheets in his arms, followed by that fool of Mizuki who is smiling gently. Iruka has a blank expression on his face that when facing the class, turns into a serious one. Today is an important day of your life. I know every one of you has the potential to become a shinobi of the village of the leaf, he says, glancing around the room and fixing his gaze for an instant on me. I knew he would have done it. He always does. My reassuring, confident grin is all for him. I want you to focus and give all yourselves during this exam. Make me proud. That said, he throws all the sheets in his hands with very fast gestures, and soon enough we all have one in front of us. The first part of the genin exam starts now. You have an hour. I take the pen and whisper a quick good luck to Hinata, who blushes furiously and whispers it back to me. I don't even need to read the questions. I took this exam so many times I know it perfectly after all, but I'm very careful with my answers. I want to do neither too well nor too bad. After repeating the exam countless times, I found out that if I perform good enough to simply pass in the written part, then I can end up in almost every possible team with every possible sensei. I like it when I cannot predict something. When I finish to half answer the questions, I notice Iruka-sensei is watching me with a frown. I tilt my head to the side as if to ask what, and he just moves his gaze on some other student. He knows me like nobody else at this point, and he probably thinks there is something different in me. What that is, I cannot tell. When the bell rings again, I hand over my sheet and follow Mizuki out on the training ground for the taijutsu part of the exam. I grin a little. There's no reason to hold back here. Instead, there's a very good one to kick the blonde bastard's ass. I watch as the other students fight Mizuki under Iruka's intent gaze. I'm almost the last one alphabetically, followed only by Yamanaka Ino. Akamaru's bite on the Chunin's left hand leaves me rolling on the grass and laughing my ass off. It's good to be a kid again. Kiba tosses me a smirk after the end of his match and I grin at him. He was the only one to score more than one blow on Mizuki, although technically it was Akamaru who hit the second time. Hinata almost managed it once, but in the end the Chunin blocked the girl's strike. When it's Sasuke's turn, the boy impresses both senseis with a couple of good taijutsu moves and 4 scored blows. Uzumaki Naruto, Iruka finally calls my name. I make my way to the fighting circle and stand in front of Mizuki, who repeats the rules of the match. I nod my way through the lectures and warnings with a grin on my face. Begin, Iruka shouts. I don't waste any time as I charge directly at him at high speed using my perfect chakra control on my legs and feet. When I reach the startled Chunin, I duck swiftly to the right and throw a punch at him at rib level. He parries it and tries to hit me with his other hand, but I swat his blow aside as if it was a little fly and punch him in the gut. He is clearly surprised when I dismiss his strike that easily, and he's not fast enough to avoid mine. He takes a step back in pain, but I grasp his right wrist and pull his larger body toward me. Jumping slightly, I kick his left shin hard, right as I punch him under the chin. His pitiful yelp as he's launched off his feet and then onto the ground is music to my ears. It all took 2 seconds. There's a shocked silence around us, only interrupted by a groan from Mizuki. I turn around and see everybody staring at me open-mouthed. I just grin at a stunned Iruka and show him the sign of victory. Finally, the scarred Chunin recomposes himself and declares the end of the match before rushing to his fellow sensei on the ground. As he helps him standing up, I notice everybody is giving me weird looks. I just shrug and approach the two men at the edge of the fighting circle. Mizuki seems still a little dazed by the blow under the chin. Mizuki-sensei, I'm sorry if I went too far, I say simply with a faked smile. Iruka shakes his head and a proud grin appears on his face. Don't worry, Naruto. Your attack was well within the rules. You did well. I grin at him and bow a little before strolling back out of the circle. I see Ino staring at me like I sprouted a second head somewhere on my shoulder, and I make my way toward her. I injured his left shin, I murmur. What? His left shin? I repeat. It's injured. I thought you could use the information. The pretty girl stares at me even more dumbfounded, but I don't pay her any more attention, and after a moment her name is called for the taijutsu match and she enters the circle, glancing back at me once. I see the two senseis speaking to each other for a moment and Mizuki waving dismissively with his hand. I grin. The bastard wants to play it down. Let's see how Ino will take advantage of it. She is usually good at it. When she sees a weakness, she attacks it. And I'm not just talking about a fight. Her view of our marriages was not that different. That's part of her charm. Begin. Ino shoots across the circle, blonde hair swirling behind, and tries a couple of jabs against the Chunin, who blocks them easily and counters with a palm strike on her right shoulder. She dodges it and tries to kick him in the stomach, but Mizuki grabs the overextended limb and with a foot sweep, knocks her other foot out from under her. She falls on her left side as Mizuki frees her and slowly takes a step back, wincing almost imperceptibly. It hurts, eh, bastard? The blonde girl stands up, her blue eyes narrowed, apparently annoyed. She attacks again with a combo of punches and kicks on the high section of Mizuki's body. The Chunin blocks all the blows without moving from his spot and delivers another palm strike on her shoulder, hitting her and making the girl stagger back. With a snarl she charges again faster than before, but this time she aims a kick at his left injured leg. Mizuki cannot react fast enough to avoid it, and when her foot slams on it, he wobbles unsteadily, hissing in pain. Heartened by the little victory, Ino's fist shoots up and strikes the Chunin's nose. Hard. The following snap of bone resounds across the silence of the training ground, making more than one student wince as Mizuki drops to the ground. Ino jumps back, seemingly shocked at what she's done. I fight to contain the snicker that desperately tries to escape my mouth as everybody starts whispering about the exciting match and Ino's victory. This thing never happened in the past. I'm pretty sure I would remember it if little Ino kicked bastard Mizuki's ass. I'm chuckling openly now. Meanwhile, said girl is apologizing profusely to both senseis despite Iruka's clear smile showing his amusement at Mizuki's fate. Soon enough the battered Chunin is brought to the hospital by some academy assistants. Now, after the usual bickering with Sakura about Sasuke, Ino is watching me red-faced, but I don't understand if she is angry or embarrassed. I grin at her and then shrug it off, walking next to Kiba and following Iruka-sensei to where the weapon part of the exam will take place. You did good out there, Akamaru, I say, talking with the little dog on the boy's head. If only you had had a more useful partner. Hey, Kiba shouts indignant. Didn't you see how I distracted Mizuki-sensei with my air kick so that Akamaru could have an opening? He assumes a haughty expression. It's called teamwork, idiot. Oh, you did that on purpose. I thought you were just attacking randomly. He blushes a little, revealing that I hit home, at least partially. Of course not. We had planned it all, right, Akamaru? The dog barks once a little hesitantly, or maybe that's just my impression, and Kiba steers the conversation on safer waters. You weren't too shabby either, he concedes before smiling brightly. And you did kick his ass. He chuckles. Did you hear the snap of his nose at Ino's punch? How could I not? I say, laughing with him. It was like when you break a twig in a forest at night. Nobody can miss it. Anyway, she would not have been able to do it if you hadn't dazed him like that, he continues playfully. I frown. Not really. Didn't you notice how much faster Ino was when Sensei pissed her off? She will be a good kunoichi, I tell you. It's a little bit like cheating when I say these things. I know she'll be a good kunoichi, I'm not simply predicting it. But, well, why should it matter? Kiba just grunts, which in his language means, you're right, but I won't say it. I watch in front of me and see Sasuke a little on the right and Sakura orbiting annoyingly around him. Where in hell is Ino? Uh-oh. I turn around slowly and sure enough she's right behind us, her face an angry red that shouts danger. I nudge Kiba on the side and after a second of puzzlement, the boy looks past his shoulder and dog. I see him flinch out of the corner of my eye before giving all my attention to the mad blonde now in front of me. It's all she lets me say before her hammer fist drops on my head, leaving me with my ass on the ground. Oh, my whining doesn't seem to draw any sympathy, not from her who just huffs and walks away, nor from Kiba who roars in laughter with Akamaru. I rub the bump already forming on my head before taking Shino's offered hand and standing up. She could have hit you too, you know. I snap at the still howling Inuzuka. Maybe she's just waiting for a juicier opportunity. The malicious glint in my eyes effectively stops his laughter. That's it. She wanted to hit you on the head, but since Akamaru was there, she just postponed it. I wouldn't laugh that much if I were you. Kiba gulps, visibly patting his dog, grateful. He glances at the fading back of the dangerous blonde. Why did she react like that anyways? It's not like we were insulting her or anything. Oh yeah, Now that you are about to be kicked around like Mizuki, you defend me. I grumble. Anyways, she's a girl. Decades will pass before you'll understand girls, I say wisely, adding I still have problems. To myself, Kiba murmurs noncommittally. Dogs are easier to understand. Of course, I agree. I bet bugs too. Right, Shino? The boy nods without hesitation. Definitely. I grin at him and at his stoic mask. Let's go, I say. There's an Iburaim here, and I seem to remember there's not much before and B in the alphabet. Kiba barks a laugh and we make our way to Iruka-sensei, who stands in front of various targets. Iburaim Shino, he calls immediately. The quiet boy steps up and, after a brief explanation on the Chunin's part, starts throwing his shuriken, then his kunai. Shino is strong and precise, if a little slow maybe. When he starts decapitating dummies with swords and axes, Kiba expresses his judgment. Impressive. But I'm better. I just snort. When he finally ends, Shino bows to Iruka and comes back toward us. I can see a thin layer of sweat on his forehead. I don't know how he can stay with that coat of his all the time. How do you assess your performance in the art of the ninja weapons which Iruka-sensei bestowed upon you? I ask with a blank face. Shino's only reaction is that to show his eyebrows over the glasses. Kiba chuckles and I join him after a couple of seconds, but the Iburaim seems annoyed, judging by how set his jaw and stiff his shoulders are. I'm sure I'm the only one who could have noticed it except maybe his clan and some quite expert jounins. Oh, come on Shino, I say. We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you. He relaxes visibly, but I guess it was too much expecting that he really laughed with us. Or even smiled. Really? Kiba asks me, grinning. I'm pretty sure I was laughing at him. I smack the Inuzuka on the back of his head, avoiding Akamyoru, but both boy and dog growl at me. I should let them hear one of my prisoners' growls. That is the real thing. We watch as the next student throws his shuriken and kunai. Akamichi Chouji is far from good with long-range weapons, or better, with long-range attacks. He hit the target only twice in 20 throws. Maybe it's because of his clan that uses mainly physical jutsus, but he clearly didn't spend much time training with shuriken and kunai. It almost seems like nobody ever gave him pointers in order to improve his visibly wrong technique. He's okay with close-range weapons though. When the round boy passes by me after completing his exam, I call his name and stop him short. May I give you an advice? About what? He asks a little on the defensive side. Your technique with shuriken and kunai. Here, I produce one of the latter from my holster and show him my stance. See, you put your weight in the wrong side of your body. When you throw a kunai, you are like this. I change stance in an approximation of the one he used. You are unbalanced and use much more energy than necessary. I give him my kunai, create a cage bunshin at more or less the same distance of some of the targets we are required to hit in the exam, and correct his form. In all this, Chouji seems completely dumbfounded, following my directions passively. Throw it against my bunshin now, I say, gently patting his back. He shuffles his feet slightly, licks his lips and narrows his eyes in a determined fashion. When he throws the kunai, it flies toward my clone with way more speed and accuracy than he ever managed before. The cage bunshin sidesteps it and shouts an approving, yay. Oh, Chouji whispers almost awed. That's better, I concede before producing a shuriken. Again, we spend the next 15 minutes like that. I give the round boy some more pointers, but generally I let him become acquainted with this new form. He's still sloppy as hell, and with all the strength he has, his weapons could fly much faster, but he's definitely better now. We draw a lot of attention during this lesson of sort, and when we stop to watch Kiba's turn, there's a small crowd gathered around us. The Inuzuka boy wasn't bragging when he said he was better than Shino, and the little smirk playing on his lips when he comes back is directed as much at me as at the bug user. I shake my head amused as my clone carries back all the kunai and shuriken Chouji used. The Akamichi watches him open-mouthed together with many of the students nearby. I sigh. He's a cage bunshin. And yes, he's solid. I place my weapons in their proper holsters and then dispel him, continuing to watch the exam. As expected, Sasuke displays the best technique in scores, and oddly enough, he stops sulking for a moment to smirk at me. I almost laugh out loud at that. Instead, I simply grin and reach Iruka-sensei when he calls my name. When the last dummy is beheaded, I lay down the axe and walk back to the circle of students. I see Sasuke and toss his smirk back at him with great pleasure. I got the highest score possible with a perfect performance. Take that, Dobe. When Ino passes by to take her exam, I smile at her a little. Good luck, I whisper before joining Kiba, Shino, and Chouji again. The round boy is already crunching his chips and Shino is his usual expressionless self. Kiba instead is watching me suspiciously. Are you really Naruto? He asks me. No, I'm the Hokage under disguise. I snort because in a way I really am. Really, you can't be the dead last, he insists. Boy, I'm Uzumaki Naruto, future Hokage of Konoha. This exam to become genin is nothing. I'll show you all what the strongest ninja in the village looks like. I almost ruined my great impersonation of my younger self by bursting out laughing. I'm loving every minute of it. I was such an idiot at this age. Yeah, Kiba says, waving his hand dismissively. Apparently the usual bragging from my part is proof enough of my real identity. We know. Now I have to grin like a maniac. Just a few students around us are watching me like I am nuts. I can see some awestruck faces already. I didn't remember it took so little to be taken seriously. The weapon part of Ino's exam is not very good. With long-range weapons, she's roughly at Chaoji's current level, that means barely decent for a genin, and with swords and axes she's actually worse. When Iruka-sensei stops her, she seems upset, but there's nothing she can do. We go back to the classroom for the last part of the exam that will start in half an hour, and I find myself seated beside Shikamaru and Sasuke. The Uchiha shoots me an annoyed glare before continuing to brood as always. The other boy instead starts a conversation with me. "Hey Naruto, you were pretty good out there," he compliments me. He seems bored out of his mind with his feet on the desk and his head lolled in my direction. "Thank you. You were good enough and we both know that was what you aimed for," I reply with a smile. He schools his features almost immediately in a blank expression, but I'm far too experienced. "What do you mean?" he asks, feigning bored confusion. I only lift my eyebrows and keep on looking at him. He stays still for a couple of seconds before sighing and waving his hand once. "Whatever, Naruto," someone shouts. I turn around only to see an angry-looking Haruno Sakura with her forefinger pointed at me. "Move your ass and leave me your seat." I mirror the Nara boy's expression, feigning confusion. "Why Sakura-chan?" "Because I want to sit next to Sasuke-kun, that's why." She puts her hands on her hips in a menacing way. "And don't call me Sakura-chan." "Okay," I say. "If you want to sit where I am, then you have to do something to prove yourself." She hesitates, seeing my wide grin. "I don't have to prove myself to you, idiot." She yells. "Oh, but it's not to me you'll prove yourself to," I exclaim. "And to whom then?" She asks harshly, but I just smile sweetly. "But to Sasuke-kun, of course." My sentence causes several reactions. The dark-haired boy on my right snaps his head in my direction with a death glare. The pink-haired girl stops for a moment before blushing embarrassed, and a deep silence descends in the classroom. "Okay," then Sakura says, half determinate, half self-conscious. "What are you up to, Dobe?" Sasuke growls in a low voice, but I ignore him completely and instead address the girl in front of me. "Good. In order to sit here," I say, pointing my finger down and taking a small pause to double the suspense, "you have to get Shino say the word cute." "What?" A familiar voice yells from the back of the classroom. Everybody turns toward it and there stands none other than Shino. I almost laugh, seeing his startled expression as he hurries to regain his stoic facade. Apparently, Kiba doesn't have a will as strong as mine, because he starts howling in laughter at the strong reaction of the usually composed bug user. Of course, the dog boy probably didn't have the littlest intention of refraining from laughing. Sakura seems thoughtful when I refocus my attention on her. Then she slams her fist in the palm and stalks toward Shino. "Awa, Shino is no fun," I always told him. He's already behind me with a hand on my shoulder. The hand is clasped a little more tightly than necessary too. The girl is kicking aside whoever stands or sits on her path. "I would appreciate if you stopped this foolishness now." I smile at him. "Say cute then." He clenches his jaw tightly, and if I didn't know better, I would almost think he's gritting his teeth. His hand starts squeezing way too much. "That won't happen." I glance at Sakura and her fanatic expression, and Shino is forced to mirror me. I see his eyes widen a little behind those sunglasses of his. "It's just a little word," I say, my voice trembling with barely repressed laughter. "You can even whisper it to me and no one will be any the wiser. Just once." He takes a quick look at Sakura again. She's just 6 seats away and you can see her lips moving as if rehearsing a speech or something. The crazy glint in her eyes is still there. Suddenly, the hand on my shoulder shakes a little as Shino takes a deep breath. He then ducks his head and murmurs in a low whisper, "Cute." That finally makes me crack. I burst out laughing, hard, slamming a fist on the desk and using the other hand to hold my stomach. The bug boy murmurs something else, probably a curse, and that makes it even harder for me to stop. There's something absolutely hilarious about the granitic and sternoburame Shino saying a word like cute. I never ever heard him say that word, and I've known him for centuries. Anyways, these little things are what really make it worth living again and again, I mean. No matter how sure you are to have experienced everything, there's always something new, something surprising. Life is good. But I should have made Shino say cutie, I think. Maybe next time. Sakura is now upon us, and that is enough that my instincts of self-preservation kick in. "Sakura, Sakura," I say between chuckles. The girl stops and looks at me, her arms lifted to grasp Shino in order to do who knows what. "That's enough. You can sit here." I stand up listening to a chorus of awa. "Sorry guys," I say chuckling. "The show ends here." Sakura all but shoves me aside, beginning to pester Sasuke. The Uchiha boy sends me another death glare before rolling his eyes at the girl. I smirk at him and at an amused-looking Shikamaru before following Shino. The bug user regards me apparently annoyed, but I just shrug, smiling. It was fun. He concedes my point by rolling his eyes, which for him is like laughing his ass off. He takes his seat again and I scan the classroom to find an empty place. I spot it in the first row and I start walking. On my way there, I receive a grin with thumbs up from Kiba and a death glare from a red-faced Ino. Finally sitting down, I put my hands behind my head and relax a little. After a while, Iruka comes back from the next room and explains the last part of the genin exam. As always, we are to perform the Bunshin no Jutsu. Shino is the first to enter, and after a couple of minutes, he's sporting his leaf head protector. Way to go, Shino. I congratulate him. With both hands in his coat's pocket, he returns to his seat, expressionless as always. almost always. When Hinata's turn comes, she walks shakily in the other room. The last thing I see is her pretty blush after she glances at me, only to find a large smile and 2 thumbs up. When she exits with the Hittite in her hands, I whoop once, raising my fist in the air, barely restraining myself from jumping over the desk and crushing her in a hug. Great Hinata, you're a genin, I shout happily, and she ducks her head, blushing furiously and smiling a little. Everything else happens more or less as always. There has never been a big change in the first day of my countless lives, except those lives in which I went nuts and destroyed everything or simply started a long training trip. Anyways, when Iruka calls my name, I confidently enter the exam room. There are 3 shinobis at the desk in front of me. Mizuki is noticeably absent, maybe still in the hospital, although I doubt it, and in his place there are 2 younger chunins who seem vaguely familiar. Their gazes are hard, but not hateful. They probably don't know that Kyubbi no Kitsune is sealed inside of me, but they too are touched like everybody else by the stain of that secret. Well, Naruto, this is the last portion of the exam, Iruka says, smiling. I want you to create 3 effective bunshins in the next 20 seconds. I nod at him as I ponder the idea of creating them without seal, smoke, and poof. To show off or not to show off, that is the question. In the end, I simply do what they expect me to do and end it there. Still, the smoke my 3 bunshins produce is not much, and I can clearly see that impresses them. The one on the right scribbles something down on a sheet of sword as Iruka-sensei stands up and inspects my clones very attentively. He then takes one of the leaf head protectors on the table and offers it to me with a smile. You pass. I grin widely at him and bow a little, accepting the symbol of my old, new status of genin. Thank you, Iruka-sensei. You're welcome. I dispel my clones and exit the room with him so he can call the last student and be done with it. Yamanaka Ino. I receive more smiles than I expected as I return to my seat. Passing by a nervous-looking Ino, I wink at her playfully before sitting down. When I lift my gaze again, she's already rushed into the exam room, leaving a puzzled Iruka behind. Am I annoying her too much now? I smirk at Kiba, who smirks back at me. He's in the other side of the room, but he sees it clearly when I mouth the words "mine is better," pointing at my leaf Hittite. He snorts visibly and starts polishing his, mocking me. Ino comes back from the exam room with her new head protector and a huge smile. She walks right towards Sasuke and Sakura and starts fawning over the boy. Iruka enters a couple of minutes later. I once again congratulate those of you who became genins. You are now real ninjas, but you have a long path before you. The hard part of being a shinobi has just started, the scarred chunin says seriously, watching us in the eye. To those who didn't pass the exam, I just want to say to work hard for your next chance. I'll see you back in a month when the new term starts. With the genins instead, we'll see each other tomorrow for your team assignment. Don't be late. That said, he exits the classroom, leaving us to our cheering and sulking. After a little of Shino teasing and Hinata embarrassing, I'm making my way to the ramen stand, Ichiraku. Man, how I miss that place. Don't misunderstand me. I grew past my obsession over ramen, although I still appreciate a good cup. But Ichiraku's stand means more to me than just a good eating place. I practically lived there in my first childhood. The old man was almost a father-like figure when I really was all alone. I'd walk through the streets of Konoha trading a smile for every glare, a bow for every sneer. In some of my past lives, I would have stood up to them. In others, I would have killed those who dared to look at me funny. I had my moments of anger and rage, but I like to think that I had somewhat earned them. Plus, they didn't happen very often and not recently anyways. A delicious smell of ramen fills my nostrils as I reach the stand and sit on a stool. My mouth waters more than ever, but I somehow manage to shout without spitting everywhere. Oi, old man, 1 bowl of miso ramen for your favorite genin. Today we've got to celebrate. Ichiraku's head appears from the back of the bar and eyes my head protector with something akin to pride. Naruto, I knew you would have done it, he exclaims, smiling. Miso ramen coming up in a minute and it's on the house today. Thank you, Ichiraku-san, I shout jovially. I am, what? Asks tiredly the old man's daughter, entering the kitchen from somewhere behind the stand. Come here, take a look at our customer. She scans curiously the almost empty stools and sees me on the left one. It takes a minute for her to notice the Hittite on my head, but when she does, her hazel eyes start sparkling beautifully. You did it, she squeaks. Yep, I answer, scratching the back of my head in a gesture I still use sometimes. Oh, but we have to celebrate then. Your first bowl is on the house today. I laugh. You're late for that. That was already settled. The second bowl then. She insists firmly and I grin at her. Okay, 30 minutes and a ton of noodles later, I thank Ichiraku and I aim and start wandering through the streets of Konoha. There are a couple of things I have to buy, so I go back to my apartment, take my savings and use Henj no Jutsu to change my appearance in a less recognizable brown-haired boy. Let's just say it'll make things easier. After an hour of shopping, I finally own some no-orange clothes, more and better weapons, and more importantly, a complete set of chakra-adjusting training weights. I put them on as soon as I get into the woods near the east gate, adjusting them in order to make them trying but not unbearable. A perfect taijutsu, even in more than one style, can only help to a certain extent if your body isn't up to your opponent's level. It will be months before I gain the best muscular build I can get at this age, but in the meantime I will make up for it with my knowledge, experience, and chakra control. Once settled, I take a quick jog to get used to my new weight and then start training a little harder just for the fun of it. When I finally feel physically exhausted, the sky is dark above me and Konoha is lit up beautifully. I watch the village from a bare rock near the training grounds as my breathing slows down and my skin cools under a gentle breeze. Just one more thing and then I can go back home for a night of well-deserved rest. I silently stand up from my seated position and steer once again in the dark woods. I find a small clearing and halt there, closing my eyes. The sound of my slow intakes of breath helps me relaxing and concentrating in an exercise I've done infinite times in the past. I don't even have to say anything to the demon fox. When he senses I'm ready, he starts pouring a tiny amount of his chakra through the Yondaime seal and into me. It's a tiny amount. For him, however, it's more than most Jounins will ever have. I feel myself wrapped in this red aura, an intoxicating, unstoppable wave of power fueling my body and inflaming it. I feel my chakra coils enlarge even if microscopically. Then, with a last pulse, it all ends. I take a deep calming breath as the fox's laughter resounds in my head. He loves this thing every time we do it. What an ass. I open my eyes and blink a couple of times to clear my vision, before I start running toward my apartment and a cold shower. The moonlight shines over the narrow path giving everything a translucent quality. Jumping out of the woods and onto the first house roof visible, I can't help but feel excited about tomorrow and the team I will be assigned to. I reach the Ninja Academy with roughly 5 minutes to spare on the clock, but I'm not surprised to be the last genin to arrive. Not at all. I remember clearly how in my first life, I was practically the personification of excitement and of smugness the day of the team's assignment. There are many empty seats because of our low number, and after a quick scan of the classroom and an encouraging smile to Hinata, I start toward Shino, greeting him friendly with a wave of my hand. A few genins look at my new clothes with a weird expression. Well, I guess a Naruto dressed in blue can be quite shocking after years and years of just orange. I sit beside the bug user and notice that he's stiffer than ever. Not only that, the general atmosphere permeating the room seems charged with tension. Many students are chatting, seemingly relaxed, but my millenarian experience in talking, working, and in general living with the vast majority of them helps me to notice the anxiousness hidden behind those words and chuckles. I, instead, couldn't be nervous even if I tried. I experienced this day too many times to feel troubled by it. A few minutes pass before Iruka-sensei enters the room, effectively silencing the constant buzzing you can always hear slithering through a class full of anxious students. The fact that these students just became ninjas doesn't matter at all. The Chunin enters alone and I find myself grinning, reasonably certain that Mizuki got himself in trouble trying to steal the forbidden scroll in the Hokage Tower. After all, the bastard got what he deserved in every one of my past lives. That is to say that when he was lucky he ended up in prison after getting soundly beaten up by some Jounins or sometimes by the Hokage himself. Iruka's starting speech is always the same. I could probably recite it with him. I'm sure he uses it for every group of freshly made genins. I listen with half an ear as I let my eyes wander and search my possible teammates. I wouldn't mind at all if I ended up in the same team as Hinata. The memories of my last life during which we were happily married are still fresh in my mind. But considering I had love relationships with every girl in this room, and more than once, I think I can honestly say I have no real preferences. When I finally reconnect my ears to my brain, Iruka-sensei is reading the members of Team 7 already. Oops, if they put me in one of the previous groups, I'll have to ask someone and probably make an idiot of myself. Good start, Naruto. Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke and Akamichi Choji. I think about the potential of these three genins working together while Sakura cheers like she just won the lottery. It's a good team. I remember they were known as the tank team some lives ago, and I think there's no need to explain exactly why. The attacking power is definitely remarkable, and if the pink-haired girl becomes a medical ninja specialist as often happens, then all their possible risks would decrease considerably, making them a very powerful offensive team. Of course, there's the sometimes traitor Sasuke to take into consideration, but I think I got the hang of avoiding that after thousands of years of experience. Next, Team 8. Iruka resumes. Kaburame Shino, Hyuga Hinata and Inuzuka Kiba. I glance in Hinata's direction. The girl seems disappointed, probably because we're not together. Her eyes are downcast and her forefingers pressed together in that very familiar gesture. She should be happy. Her team is great and very balanced. It will mainly be a reconnaissance group considering the girl's eyes, Kiba's and Akamaru's nose and ears, and Shino's bugs, but the team will be far from weak offensively. The techniques of the Inuzuka clan are one of the strongest in the village. The Hyuga's Juuken is deadly in close combat, and just one bug's swarm of an expert and prepared Burame can suck you dry of chakra, devour one of your limbs or poison your body in a few seconds. Not bad at all. There are only 12 genins left, that is to say 4 teams. Iruka doesn't call my name in the 9th group either, but before reading the next one, I notice him glancing quickly at me. Here I come. And now, Team 10. Nara Shikamaru, Yamanaka Ino and Uzumaki Naruto. I frown a little. This is almost new. It didn't happen very often in the past and I should be happy just for that. And I am. The thing is I'm not sure my 2 teammates will be as well. I move my gaze on them. Shikamaru doesn't seem very interested, like always. Ino is completely still, unnaturally stiff. I would have expected some whining from her, an explosion even. Nothing, instead. Not a word, not a sound, not a gesture. Shikamaru too seems surprised, at least judging by how he's looking at her with his brows furrowed. We exchange an interrogative glance before shrugging at the same time. When all the genins are finally assigned to a team, Haruka explains us that our new senseis will get here in the afternoon and that for now we're free to go out and do whatever we want. Ino practically bolts out of the classroom, disappearing in an instant. I approach the Nara boy and follow him out at a slower pace. On the academy ground there's no trace of the pretty girl, but Shikamaru doesn't appear bothered. The lazy boy makes his way to a grassy mound and lays there on his back. I watch him for a second before sitting next to him. We remain like that, in silence, for some minutes, he with his hands under his head observing the clouds passing by. I start playing with some blades of grass, making one of them float just by using my chakra in one of the basic exercises to control its flow. Not that I'd need it. Millennia of practice made my technique absolutely perfect. I'm not bragging when I say there's no one in the whole world with a better chakra control than me. Slowly I add another blade of grass to the first, then another, and I make them float without difficulty, everyone in a different direction. It's relaxing. The exercise doesn't require much attention from my part, and I can let my mind wander without purpose. I know Shikamaru is watching me very intently while trying not to show it, but it doesn't matter. I won't be able to hide my real skills from my very team, at least not all my skills. I remember all those times I have been Ino's and Shikamaru's teammate, all those strategies we used and the role every one of us had. When my mind comes back on Earth and my eyes move away from the clouds the Nara boy seems to love so much, I find myself with something very similar to an incomplete racing gun levitating over the flat of my hand. The only difference is that it is made of blades of grass. It has been absolutely unintended, something dictated by my subconscious. I chuckle a little as I let the whirling mass disperse. With a sigh, I stand up smiling like the idiot I am. I'm starving, I say. I'm gonna buy some ramen. Do you want anything? Shikamaru just shakes his head, still lying in his comfortable position. Okay, see you soon, then. I dust my new blue clothes a little as I make my way to the exit of the academy, feeling Shikamaru's gaze on me all the time. Oh, move your ass, Shikamaru. Hurry up, I hear Ino shouts, her piercing voice weak from the distance. I start toward it calmly. My stomach is full and I feel very energetic, despite I doubled with some of my chakra the weights I bought yesterday. I run swiftly and silently from branch to branch, on the trees surrounding the training ground of the academy. My teammates are now visible in front of me, Shikamaru in the exact same position I left him before going to eat an hour ago. Ino is standing a couple of meters beside him, the hands on her sides in a menacing pose. The girl is already maturing physically. I can clearly see some round areas that I know will put to the test my hormones of teenager. I'm about to jump down and in front of them when a question from Shikamaru stops me. What do you think of our team, Ino? I crouch on my branch and closer to the tree trunk to take advantage of its shadows. There is something incredibly exciting about listening to someone talking freely about you without the littlest suspect of your presence. Oh, I have no doubt that what Shikamaru really wanted to ask was, what do you think of Uzumaki Naruto, Ino? The pretty girl frowns a little. I think I should have been in the same team as Sasuke-kun. She whines with a childish voice. When she notices Shikamaru's serious and mildly annoyed expression, the kunoichi waves a fist in front of her face. Don't you dare say anything bad about Sasuke-kun. If he was in this team in your place, or in that loser Naruto's, then we would definitely be the strongest. The Yamanaka girl pauses for an instant before continuing with a dreamy expression, not to say, the prettiest. The Nara boy snorts derisively, making it harder for me not to mirror him. I somehow manage it and he's the only one to receive Ino's death glare. And yet, Naruto got one of the highest scores in the exam, and if it hadn't been for the written part, he would have been on top of everyone, says Shikamaru with his usual bored tone, certainly false in this occasion like in many others. And he really helped Choji with his throwing technique of kunai and shuriken. You did see it as well, didn't you, Ino? Did you see how much Choji improved in only 20 minutes? He just got lucky during the exam, Ino answers shrugging. And about Choji, I guess no one can be completely incompetent in everything. Maybe Naruto is passable with throwing weapons. Passable? I see Shikamaru lifting an eyebrow. He got the highest score possible. Your Sasuke-kun didn't even get near him. Now Ino is just mad. I'll have to remember not to say anything bad about Sasuke in front of her, at least not before a while. The girl doesn't seem intention to concede the point. We're talking about Naruto here. The dead last, the idiot, the loser Naruto. She shouts and I almost burst out laughing from my position above her while the Kyubbi growls inside my head. Even after all this time together, he tells me, I don't understand how you can let these brats talk about you like that. I just smile knowingly at that. You would probably prefer if I just went around beating to a pulp whoever looked at me funny. I liked it more when you were a murderous bastard. He adds after a while, confirming my thoughts. I shush him mentally. The show is about to finish but I have to find the right moment to make my appearance. I repeat it, yesterday probably had been his lucky day. Very lucky, Ino almost shouts. I decide to jump on the stage at this point. I could wait probably the perfect moment, but now it will make an impression as well. I drop from the branch landing a few steps away from my two teammates. My grin threatens to morph into full laughter, but if I start now, I'm not sure I'll be able to stop. When I make my appearance, Ino stops completely. A marble statue would have seemed more alive than her. Shikamaru wears a surprised but mostly annoyed expression. If that is because he didn't notice my presence or because I was eavesdropping, I don't know. How long did you listen, Naruto? Long enough, I reply amused. Ino is still frozen on her spot. When I meet her shocked blue eyes fixed on me, the young Yamanaka looks down and blushes furiously. That little reaction seems to free her from her stillness, and the girl brings her hands to the hair and hides some curls behind her ears in a self-conscious gesture. We should go, I think, I say after a couple of seconds of silence, pointing at the academy building. Our new senseis will get here soon. Shikamaru nods and together we start toward the entrance. Naruto, Ino calls me with an uncertain voice. Turning back toward her with a grin, I find her with her eyes still downcast and a blush on her face. Don't worry, Ino, it's okay, I tell her, but seeing her unconvinced expression I continue. Really, I'm not offended because I know you're wrong about me. My grin widens even more. It's like if someone called you ugly. You could not even believe it, because you know you are a very pretty girl. Satisfied by my successful compliment, at least judging by the doubled blush of her cheeks, I start walking again toward the academy, hearing Ino murmuring something that for all I know could be thanks as much as idiot. Behind me, Shikamaru sighs. Troublesome. Once into the classroom, we see that about half of the genins are still missing. I approach the current teammate, noticing that the two ninjas behind don't follow me. I pat Shino on the back to attract his attention. If I had done that to Hinata, I would have literally knocked her out. Oi, guys, what's up? It's Kiba who answers me with a smirk. Nothing much. We're just waiting. And you, what are you doing here? Did your team kick you out already? I shrug. Something like that, I reply, honestly taking the young Inuzuka by surprise. Really? No, not exactly. I decide to change the subject. I think yours is the best team. Mainly reconnaissance, but not bad in a fight either. I wink at Hinata and she blushes more than ever. If she doesn't quit with pressing her forefingers together, then she will have to pick them up from the pavement. What point did Iruka-sensei emphasize to us? The importance of avoiding one-dimensional teams to favor instead those well-balanced in the multiplicity of their members. Shino agrees with me in his own way. I try to mimic his stern voice and stiff posture when I answer back. That is to prevent an enemy from taking advantage of an evident weakness, one intrinsic in a two-specified team. I lift my hand and adjust a pair of invisible sunglasses on my nose. Kiba barks a laugh and even Hinata doesn't contain a little giggle. Shino really does adjust his sunglasses and looks at me with both eyebrows visible above them. Precisely. I just grin friendly at him. We talk a little more, and when I approach my team again, I find it near Team 7. Ino, quite obviously, is orbiting around an expressionless Sasuke and is arguing with an annoyed Sakura, while Shikamaru is listening to Choji with apparently little interest. When I reach them, the Uchiha boy looks at me with a serious and vaguely menacing expression. If I didn't know I could beat the crap out of him without even using my hands, then I could be worried. Maybe. Follow me outside, Dobe. Sasuke turns around without waiting for my answer and disappears from sight beyond the doors of the academy. My only reaction is that to lift my eyebrows and look at the others interrogatively. Receiving only confused and, in Shikamaru's case, bored expressions, I just shrug and follow him out of the classroom. The dark-haired boy is standing into the fighting circle where yesterday the taijutsu part of the exam took place. It's clear what he wants is. I walk forward, stopping one step out of the circle. The other members of our teams followed us, and not just them. Fight against me, Sasuke says. I sigh tiredly. If I hadn't already seen this scene countless of times, I could even have been amused. Why? Because I want to. Good answer. It fits a spoiled brat. Ah, I say simply as if he had been exhaustive. Step in the circle, he threatens me. Yes, there was a threat. I feel something rising inside me. I'm craving to take Sasuke and slam him on the ground. To hit him on his head until that little brain he still has starts working properly again. To shout in his face that he can't waste his life like that he has to look around, here and now, instead than to the past like he constantly does. I swallow back these thoughts without hesitation. Nothing of all that would work, or at least it never did in my past lives, when I had given in and acted like that. I plaster a fake smile on my face instead. You know, you should quit with all that brooding and sulking. It isn't good for your skin. You'll find yourself all wrinkled by the time you're 30. That's cheating again. I'm not just predicting that. In some of my past lives, Sasuke seemed really old at that age. Of course, the village women all found him very cute anyways, except those lives in which he turned evil. Imagine that. Sasuke growls at me. Step in the circle, he says, throwing every word like it was a kunai. Give the little twerp a lesson, the Kyubbi whispers alluring in my head. I ignore the fox but let the smile fall from my face. It was starting to hurt to pretend. Sasuke, it's stupid to live with the only purpose of avenge yourself, I say in a soft voice. The truth is that I really pity the now stunned boy in front of me. It's stupid and useless, and going on like that, you'll miss so many beautiful things. I pause. And your brother isn't worth them. His eyes widen, and the next instant, the Uchiha boy is already shooting across the circle, his face a mask of rage. He's fast for a genin, but he's also inexperienced like one. I dodge easily his punch, and with just a step, I'm behind him with his left arm in a firm grasp. When he realizes it, it's already too late and he's laying on the ground on his stomach, with all my weight on him, one of my feet on his head, and his arm in an inextricable grasp. He starts struggling for a moment, but a little pressure on his arm and head forces him to stop in pain. I ignore the boy's gasp and the fox's cackle. If you want Itachi to win, then go on living like this and you'll succeed perfectly, I say in a very low voice so that he's the only one who can hear me. The others didn't move at all. Strange. I would have expected a reaction at least from Sakura. I force my attention back on the boy beneath me. Tell me, why do you hate him? Why? Sasuke hisses, barely holding back tears of frustration and rage. He slaughtered my clan, my family. Because it's his fault if you're all alone, I correct him. Don't step on Sasuke-kun, Sakura yells, finally recovered from what I suppose should have been a shock. I ignore her, but you persist on staying alone, despite many people would do everything just to stay beside you. I free him from my grasp and step back as he starts to stand up. As to confirm my words, Sakura runs to us and offers him help, but he waves her away, too proud and, frankly, too stupid to accept. The Uchiha boy turns around and starts to walk away from the academy, leaving behind a pained Sakura. That makes me mildly annoyed. Grow up a little, Sasuke. After a second of hesitation, he keeps on walking away at a faster pace. I stay for a moment more before making my way to the academy doors again. I sit down in one of the many empty seats and rest my right cheek on the cool surface of the desk, as the other genin start to enter in small groups. Every one of them looks at me surprised, odd, or even suspiciously. I meet their gazes without problem until my teammates and Sasuke approach me. The pink-haired girl is looking at me murderously. Naruto, she starts to yell. Sakura, I interrupt her gently but firmly, lifting a hand. He called me dope. He wanted to fight. Try to get around your crush, at least to be objective like a good kunoichi should be. The girl blushes and opens her mouth before closing it again, as if she wanted to say something about what I belittled using the term crush. Then, her expression softens a little. At least, it seems like she doesn't want to behead me anymore. Yes, but, she doesn't know what to say. That happens when there's nothing to say. I let her get to that conclusion by making her stammer a little more. Shikamaru, Ino and Choji remain silent as well, the blonde girl with an odd expression on her face. Fine, Sakura concedes in the end with a sigh. Your only fault is to have won the fight. Here the kunoichi pauses and blinks a couple of times as if her brain had just processed that particular thing. How did you do that? Sasuke-kun is the strongest, the fastest. I just shrug but see that the answer to this question interests the majority of the classroom, judging by how many are listening to our conversation. Sasuke was angry, or better, furious. But rage and fury aren't very useful against a lucid opponent, even if weaker, I say wisely without saying much. I give all my attention to Sakura and speak gently. Go and bring Sasuke back. Our new senseis will be here soon, and if he's not here he won't make a good first impression. The young Haruno seems on the brink of tears. He doesn't want me, and I don't know where he went. I tried to follow him, but I lost him almost immediately. I smile at her. I know where he is, I admit, and everyone looks at me as if to say, and how would you know that? I ignore their expressions and continue as if all was normal. I cannot tell them I sent some clones after Sasuke after all. It would complicate things. He's in the weapon district, inside the shop called attack is the best defense. You know it, right? The girl nods. Then go or Sasuke will get into trouble. I prod her with some shooing gestures. After a couple of seconds of indecision, Sakura reaches the doors, glances at me one last time and then bolts out. The classroom falls into silence and many genins are staring at me openly now. I offer them my brightest smile, that strangely enough shows my longer than normal teeth, and they turn in another direction immediately. Ah, now that's better. You know, Naruto, you are starting to seem a little too full of surprises for my tastes, Shikamaru tells me, and beside him, Choji agrees visibly, nodding his head and crunching a fistful of his inevitable chips. I chuckle. You don't even know the half of it. Ah yes, I'm sure. And you're the one to talk, Mr. Nara. I keep my grades average so nobody expects too much from me, Shikamaru. Ino's head snaps in his direction so fast I fear she hurt herself. Still, she looks at him incredulously. The boy just takes his face in his hands and murmurs something indecipherable. My money is on how troublesome. What the hell is he talking about, Shikamaru? Ino asks a little shocked. Luckily for the lazy genin, before the pretty girl can start saying or doing something else, some ninjas enter the room. They all are jounins. They all have been my senseis in some of my past lives, and one of them will be in this one. We watch as they stand at attention, some more than others, and look at us with serious expressions, again some more than others. Next to me, Choji whimpers softly once. I guess he's worried about the two absent members of his team. But it doesn't matter how many times I live this day, it never happened that Sasuke's group didn't get Hadate Kakashi as sensei. And, of course, Hadate Kakashi is not here yet. He won't be before 3 hours or more. One by one, every jounin calls his own team and steps out with its members. I notice with great pleasure that the only one who is looking in my, Shikamaru's and Ino's direction is a bearded ninja with a cigarette lit up between his lips. Naruto by Asuma. I don't cross my fingers behind my back only because living thousands of lives made me skeptic about the helpfulness of these gestures. Asuma is possibly the funniest sensei I've ever had. Except maybe Mitarashi Anko, but that is a different kind of fun. Anyway, my silent prayers are granted when it's Asuma's turn to claim a team. Team 10, Nara Shikamaru, Uzumaki Naruto, Yamanaka Ino. Come with me. His deep voice is music to my ears, and I rush to the door, barely repressing the cheer on my lips. When I step outside, Asuma is already sprinting at slow speed through the training ground of the academy. I sense a genjutsu to my right, but I recognize it as something created by Yuyuhi Kurenai. It will be up to Hinata, Shino, and Kiba to face it. Instead, I start running after my new sensei, feeling Ino and Shikamaru behind. We catch up with him after a couple of seconds, only to see him pour on the speed to try and outdistance us again, zigzagging between the trees surrounding the academy. I keep his pace easily, apparently as much as my teammates. As I run, I remember all those other times Asuma made us do something of the sort. It was one of his favorite exercises. When the Hokage-san increases the pace for the 5th time, Ino starts to remain a little behind. The 7th time, Shikamaru too seems to struggle a little to trail us. I feel fresh as a daisy, and not because my body is better trained than theirs. Well, maybe because of that too, but because my two teammates are not able to use their chakra properly yet. They probably don't know how to pump it under their feet to accelerate, and there's no way they can use it to strengthen their muscles like I do. When Ino is about to disappear out of sight, Asuma halts on a naked hill that looks on the whole village. I stand beside him and observe the landscape below. After roughly half a minute, we are reached by a fatigued Shikamaru, and after some other minutes also by Ino, red-faced and breathless. She seems unsure if sitting is a good idea or not, but in the end, her legs take the decision for her. With an unladylike grunt, the young Yamanaka lays down on her back in an attempt to regain her breathing. After some minutes of silence, disturbed only by the distant noises coming from the village, I decide to speak up. Sensei, is there a reason why you brought us here? Asuma hadn't done anything like this in any of my past lives. Now that I think about it, I'm sure I had this exact thought in a previous existence, when I noticed how the Jounin never repeated the same test more than once. This explains how the Hokage-san is completely unpredictable and therefore exciting. The man turns slightly and looks at every one of us in the eye. Look down there, he says, and we comply, Ino pulling herself up on her elbows. That is the village of Konoha, the village you swore to protect by accepting the head protector you're wearing. You'll have to give your best and even your worst to that village and its Hokage. There's no other way. Here he pauses a little with a thoughtful expression. Well, there is another way actually, but I don't recommend it, he adds, grinning. I lift my right hand to my hideite and let my thumb slide on its surface in a horizontal gesture. The other way consists in becoming a missing ninja whose symbol is an incision going all the way from side to side of the head protector. Asuma nods with a more serious expression. So, he says, clapping his hands once and rubbing them together. Why don't we sit down, sunbathe and chat a little, hey? The Jounin plops down facing Ino and Shikamaru and I mirror him. He stretches, yawning for the next 10 seconds, then he takes another drag from his cigarette and resumes with his talking. What do you say if we introduce ourselves to each other? When we nod our heads, the Hokage-san continues. Well, I think it fair if I go first. My name is Naruto by Asuma. I like smoking my cigarettes, playing almost every existing game in the world, and fighting strong opponents. I dislike those who lecture me about smoking, and sadly they are far too many, and I hate arrogant people and cats. They're really awful. His annoyed expression is amusing. This will be my first genin team, as until 2 years ago, I worked as guard of the Land of Fire's daimyo for more than 10 years. That's all, I think. He doesn't mention that little detail about his father. He never does. Now you, Naruto, right. Introduce yourself. Okay, I say with a wide grin. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I like having fun, all kinds of fun. I too like fighting strong opponents, but they are very rare nowadays, I add to myself. One day I'll become Hokage and I'll have the respect of everyone in the village. My last comment, said in a matter-of-fact tone, clearly surprises Ino and Shikamaru, who were expecting something more similar to boasting and bragging. Well, they have to start to reconsider me after all, because it's a different me, the one they will have to work with from now on. Asuma-sensei nods at everything and makes an interested face at my last statement, as if he didn't know that was my dream. Yeah, sure, I'm really buying it. Your turn, Shikamaru. The boy huffs once with a bored expression before starting. I'm Shikamaru Nara. I like sleeping and playing shogi. I don't hate anything, that's too troublesome. But I mildly dislike annoying people. And my mum, well, she falls into the annoying people category, really. I chuckle a little and Asuma smiles. Ino's huff is just because of feminine sympathy, I think. The son of the Hokage turns toward her. Ino, yes, my name's Ino Yamanaka. I love going out to shop with my friends and with Sasuke-kun, and here only Asuma manages to repress a snort, but just because he doesn't know the Uchiha boy and how there's no chance he could shop with anyone, let alone Ino. I hate those who don't respect nature, she adds, tossing me and Shikamaru a death glare, and those who look down on me because I'm a female ninja. She nods her head, apparently content with her personal summary. Perfect, Asuma says. Now I want every one of you to introduce your teammates. What? Ino asks, confused, and I can't help but grinning. I knew that was coming. It's another one of the favorite games of the Hokage-san. It's simple. You have to give an honest and detailed description of Shikamaru and Naruto, and they will do the same with you and each other. Asuma shows the girl a charming smile, the cigarette dangling from the left side of his mouth. You start, Ino. Why have I to be the one to start? She demands uncomfortable, but the jounin just shrugs. Fine, she huffs. The girl looks at me, but then averts her eyes and positions them on the Nara boy. Shikamaru is the laziest person in the village, but I'm pretty sure even in the other countries he has not many rivals. She shows her tongue to him in a playful gesture. We know each other from when we were little, so I know it, she adds in a confidential tone, addressing to Asuma as if the Nara boy couldn't hear. For his part, the son of the Hokage only nods with a serious expression. He doesn't talk very much, but when he does he's annoying as hell. My father often dropped me by his family and I was always the one who did all the talking. There's a thing called silence, you know. Shikamaru grumbles, but Ino ignores him. When he doesn't sleep, he's always hanging around with a Kamichi Chouji who is almost as lazy as him. But he at least talks a little more, even if with a mouthful of chips. She says almost disdainfully. Oh, and at the academy, he always ended up in trouble because he never did his homework. She decides to make clear her point as if it wasn't already. If something requires some kind of effort, then be sure he won't do it. Anything else? A good thing perhaps? Asuma asks, partly amused. Well, his fishnet t-shirt isn't bad, she admits, and everyone except Asuma rolls his eyes. The jounin, instead, nods his head and points at me. Now Naruto. Ino begins uncertainly, without looking at me. She needs a few seconds before really start talking and I can't wipe a grin out of my face. Naruto is loud and annoying. He always pulls pranks on the villagers and shinobi, going way over the line. He too always ended up in trouble at the academy, but more for doing something stupid than for not doing homeworks. He tries to compete with Sasuke-kun, but he's not. She hesitates as she darts her blue eyes toward me, and I have to bite the insides of my cheeks not to laugh. She's clearly remembering me literally on top of the Uchiha boy not 30 minutes ago. Anyway, he can't do a basic jutsu like the henge to save his life. And have I really to talk about that awful orange jumpsuit of his? This time I can't help but laugh at her disgusted face as I lean on the grass behind me. At least, she adds after a moment, eyeing my new blue clothes, he wears something decent today. Asuma smiles. We'll have to do something about that jumpsuit then, hey Naruto. He's trying to light up a mood there's no need to light up. He probably thinks Ino's words were hard. He should have been there an hour ago, when he called me, if I remember correctly, the dead last, the idiot, the loser Naruto. I'm not promising anything, I say with a grin of my own. Okay, Asuma nods. Your turn, Shikamaru. Have I really? The boy huffs. Yes, you have, the Hokage-san confirms in his deep voice, tilting his head to a side as if assessing him. The young Nara sighs, turning his attention to me. 2 days ago, my opinion on Naruto wouldn't have been much different than Ino's. A loud, annoying braggart who always pulls pranks surmised his character well enough. He stares at me for a long moment, letting his bored mask slip off his face. But now, I don't know. I'm not saying he's not a loud, annoying braggart who always pulls pranks anymore, but I think that isn't enough now. He showed different aspects of his personality overnight. He seems more mature, not to say stronger and more skilled. He did defeat Sasuke and Mizuki-sensei easily after all, although he had probably been underestimated by them both. And he got one of the best scores in the exam and the best one overall in the practice portion of it. I grin wolfishly at that, and I can see Asuma weighing me up with this new information out of the corner of his eye. You'll know how much I'm really strong soon enough, sensei. He also displayed some advanced abilities and knowledge, he adds, probably referring to my cage bunchins and my grass Rasengan. It seems like he downplayed his skills until the Genin exam, but something is not adding up. His dark eyes try to bore into me, but my grin is immovable. He's a smart guy, that's for sure. Not that it was that difficult to smell something fishy in my latest behavior after all. I'm not exactly trying to lay low here. Very good, Asuma says, pleased with this last, gentler judgment. After another interested look at me, Shikamaru turns toward Ino, assuming a bored expression again. Not a good sign, I'm speaking from experience. Ino, you are annoying and talk too much, more so when you're around your precious Sasuke-kun. That obsession of yours and of pretty much every girl at the academy is almost more irritating than my mom waking me up early in the morning. You're a superficial little girl apparently interested only in dresses and boys. And you're often bossy and have a bad temper, which is a huge no-no in my book. He says all this almost in one breath and without pause. His decision of directly addressing the girl serves only to harden his already strong words. When he finishes, Ino has a murderous glint in her eyes, as if to confirm Shikamaru's last comment. Asuma-sensei rubs his temples with both hands, with an expression that clearly says I had hoped this went better. I guess we could say his little game somewhat backfired. I'm pretty sure that despite I assisted and participated to this thing countless of times, this one is the harshest of them all. I can see stormy beginnings for Team 10. Your turn, Naruto, the Jounin says, offering me a half-begging, half-discouraged look. I smile. Poor Asuma, he didn't see this start coming. But he should have expected it, at least partially. Kids are often brutal, sometimes cruel. They don't always understand or care for their actions' consequences. Fortunately for him, I'm not really a kid. Who should I start with? I ask to myself, tilting my head from side to side. Shikamaru has a bored expression, as always, while Ino has opted for a somewhat snobbish one. Women first, right. I fix my eyes on the young Yamanaka, and she stiffens visibly. Maybe not this time. I turn to the Nara boy and he eyes me almost sleepily. I could mix it up a little perhaps, I say thoughtfully, rubbing my chin with my hand. I miss my white beard a little, but I can't do anything about it. It won't appear before a long time. Okay, I say, making up my mind. I give all my attention to Asuma-sensei and start talking. Ino and Shikamaru are not as different as they might seem. My introductory comment isn't exactly well received, at least judging by the double what. That comes from the two genins. Their attitudes certainly are, and those are what we all see most of the time. She's passionate, he's apathetic. She's bossy, he's passive. She's energetic, he's lazy, and so on. That is why they rub each other the wrong way so much. I can see Asuma is very interested in my statements, and very amused by all the sputtering the two are keeping on doing. He nods his head with a knowing smile as he puts out his cigarette and drops it into an opposite compartment of his jounin uniform. I so terribly don't want to know what unspeakable hideousnesses are hidden in there. But when things get serious, both are there, present for those they care about. Even for each other, yes, I add, turning to them when they try to deny it. They both exude self-confidence and leadership, each in their own different way. When they absolutely want something, they do whatever is necessary to get it. At the incredulous look from Ino to Shikamaru, I feel an explanation of that last point is needed. Think about what he's done at the academy, I tell her. He could have easily been the best student of our class in almost everything. Still, he chose not to stand out, and don't underestimate how difficult it is to hold back like that. Believe me, I know. I strongly hint that that's what I did as well, and Shikamaru and I received 2 stunned looks from the girl. Anyways, what I mean is that you are more similar than you think, and that both of you have what is needed to become a good shinobi of the leaf. I could have said something more specific. I know them very, very well after all, but there was no need, really. I already made my point, judging by the thoughtful silence that follows my last comment. Ino and Shikamaru are looking at each other with very skeptic expressions. Ino can be as stubborn as hell, and Shikamaru, while very intelligent and observant, is still a little kid. It will take more than just a few words from the dead last to make them notice and hopefully accept it. Very good, Asuma-sensei says, standing up. Now that we know each other fairly well, and here our incredulous looks prompt him to add, for a starting point, we can pass to something else. He dusts his green vest before looking at us with a smile. I want you to show me your best shot. Ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, you choose. I want to see the thing you feel the most proficient in. He looks around with an approving expression. I think we have enough room here. I stand up and offer a hand to Ino. She takes it after a moment, and I help her on her feet, while thinking what to do. For a moment, I ponder the idea of showing Asuma the complete version of the Rasengan, but then settle for my Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. It's definitely my favorite move, if not the one I'm the most proficient in, and it is effectively important to me. There are others, many others, as well, but this one will be impressive enough. I see my 2 teammates hesitate, so I decide to start for first. Asuma-sensei, may I? Go on, Naruto. I hope you're going to show me your infamous sexy no jutsu I heard so much about, he says, smiling. I'm also gonna wipe that smile off his face. I was ready to hold back a little by making the seals and letting smoke and sound make an appearance, but that grin of his made me change my mind. My grin is much wider when, a second later, thousands of Naruto appear everywhere around us, every one of them yelling a loud oi. That deafens me as well, despite I knew they would have done that. Neither smoke nor sound anticipated their coming, and I performed no seal at all. All this without breaking a sweat. The nearest clone to Asuma pats him on the arm when he sees his completely stunned expression, and the jounin makes a double take. Ino's and Shikamaru's expression are not that different, all with their open mouths and wide eyes. I laugh, and when I say I mean every eye there, with another deafening, not to say eerie, result. And Naruto, are they Kage Bunshins? Asuma asks me, the very me, stammering less than what I expected. He starts touching some of the clones to test their solidity, and much to his surprise and delight, everyone he touches is solid indeed. Yeah, and I can do a lot more, I say, and each Naruto nods his head in agreement. Ino and Shikamaru still have their mouths open as they look at the multitude in front of them, and behind them, and to their right and left. I smirk. So, what do you think, sensei? He turns toward me slowly, showing me very wide eyes. He lifts a hand, palm to me, as if to stop me or shut me up. He starts searching in one of his chest pockets and soon enough produces a cigarette package. He takes one from it, puts it between his lips and lights it up with a hand gesture. Then he takes a long drag, exhaling very slowly, eyes closed. When he opens them again, he reveals a serious expression on his face. Not bad, he says in a bored tone, and I burst out laughing. He smiles too after a moment. Dispel them so we can continue. There's too little room now. I chuckle again as my Kage Bunshins disappear, again without producing neither smoke nor sound. Asuma shakes his head disbelievingly. Ino, let's see what you got. Oh. Sometimes later, we all are dining at Mitsuruka's, a place I grew accustomed to in some of my past lives. The owner, a 40-year-old man who is now glaring at me from behind the counter, has a daughter I married a couple of times, 7, I think. Maybe the man can sense the danger. The girl, Karina, is serving at the tables. She's already very pretty at 13, and she's glancing now and then at my whisker marks with an interested expression. I thank her with a sweet smile when she puts my grilled steak in front of me. You already hit on her, hey Naruto. Asuma asks, trying to embarrass me as Karina goes back to her father. We're the only customers at the moment in the late afternoon. I just grin at him. I'm not a little kid who blushes at the littlest teasing. No, don't think so. She was simply fascinated by my unusual marks. They're almost fox-like. It's Asuma instead who feels uncomfortable at my statement. Tonight he'll be at his father's door knocking forcefully and shouting he knows. He knows. Now, that's an amusing image. Anyway, he's a jounin and an expert one at that, so he shows his wariness with just minimal shoulder stiffness. You could use it to chat her up, he replies smoothly. Oh yeah, sure, I say, slicing my steak. I could use something like, hey pretty girl, I've got a lot of marks on my body. Wanna see them? That's just perfect to start a relationship. Asuma snorts, while Ino seems disgusted and embarrassed. Shikamaru is thoughtful. I hope he isn't thinking about my marked naked body. He had never been gay in any of my past lives. But he is, after all, going through a phase of sexual instability. But, who am I kidding? The Nara boy always ends up with a smocking hot kunoichi. There's no way he could be interested in a boy, fortunately, if said boy is me. He's probably thinking about my comments, maybe even putting everything together and discovering my secret. Well, one of them anyways. Who could be interested in someone like you? Ino says with a scowl and still a slight blush. Hey, not everyone likes dark-haired brooding boys, you know. Who doesn't like pretty blue eyes and golden locks of hair? I exclaim, rolling a blonde curl around my finger and batting my eyelids at her. And what about a sunny, not to say funny, attitude? Well, not me, she shouts, blushing furiously and averting her eyes. Really? I keep on teasing her. Still, you should know blondes have more fun. Her sputtering is interrupted when Karina comes back with 2 bowls of sauce. I smile at her. Thank you very much, I say, and she smiles back. She has the cutest dimples. You're welcome. Sorry. I stop her as she's starting to step away. She turns around and tilts her head to a side. I just wanted to say you're very pretty when you smile. The cute blush that creeps on her cheeks is the only comprehensible answer I get as she stammers something before bolting to a door and out of sight. The shocked silence at the table prolongs for some seconds. What? I say finally with a grin, and Asuma starts chuckling. Oh my, they gave me a wannabe Casanova. You were flirting, Shikamaru says with an almost disgusted expression. I guess he didn't hit puberty yet for him to react like this. Or maybe he really is gay. At least, he isn't feigning boredom anymore. I was just complimenting her. That has always been my line of defense in every one of my lives. I admit it can have some flaws, but I like it. Ino is sporting an unhealthy angry red on her face, and she's started eating her meal with a dangerous forcefulness. She wipes her plate way before me, and that's really an accomplishment. Want some? I ask her, pointing at my plate and trying to ignore the death glare coming from the restaurant's owner not too far away. The steak is really good. Ino, you should eat some. Her plate was just pathetic. 2 carrots, a potato, and a mountain of vegetables. Mine is overflowing with delicious meat and sauce, and I already gobbled down a lot of appetizers she barely touched. No, she says forcefully. Why not? It seems like you're still hungry. I said no. I have to watch my weight, she answers, scowling. I frown at her. That's one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard, and I heard some quite idiotic ones, especially coming from my own mouth. What? The girl half snorts, half yells in an unladylike sound. At least she's also amused and not just mad at me. Never mind, I say, waving dismissively with my hand. Do whatever you want. It's your body after all. Asuma decides to change the subject as soon as possible. So, as I already said, tomorrow we'll start taking missions, the Hokage-san says in his deep voice. We genins nod our heads, Ino after a last moment of grumbling. They'll be boring ones at first, he continues with an annoyed expression, but with time we'll get something more serious. The missions will help us understand how to work as a team and what to expect from its every member. I want you to think about today, about what your teammates did and said, and try to somewhat reconcile them with your own abilities. I already did that using way more information than just what Ino and Shikamaru let out today. After my little demonstration with my impressive jutsu, my 2 teammates performed their basic clan techniques, the Nara's Kageme no Jutsu, and the Yamanaka's Shintenshin no Jutsu. Both are very useful already, but when they'll learn something more advanced, it will be even better. After that, Asuma made us spar against each other to see how our taijutsu was. Even with my weights on, I had no problem at all against them, but I was positively surprised by Ino. The girl is fast and agile, and when she'll start using chakra to improve in both, she'll be a force to recon with. Shikamaru held back a little as always, and even a mild beating from my part couldn't motivate him enough to give his best. Asuma gave pointers here and there in his usual gentle way, and soon enough he called a halt and took us here to dine. I'm glad I was assigned to this team. I see great potential and possibilities in you. If you play your cards right, you'll be chunins in no time. We just made genins, Shikamaru groans. He's clearly thinking about what a pain it would be to take another exam. Asuma just shrugs before returning to his plate. Some food, conversations, and cigarettes later, we are ready to go. After a little more of flirting from my part, we exit the restaurant, leaving behind a fuming father and a blushing daughter. You're shameless, Naruto, Shikamaru says, shaking his head. We're still in front of the building, under the yellow light of a street lamp. I feign annoyance. Again, she was kind and I just complimented her. If you had complimented her kindness instead of her chocolate eyes, then I could have believed it. Whatever, I say, shrugging and turning to Asuma. What now, sensei? Now, he asks, lighting up another cigarette. He then pumps a fist in the air cheerily. Now it's bedtime. Shikamaru and Ino roll their eyes, but I mimic the Hokage's son playfully. He chuckles one last time. No, seriously, get a night of rest. Tomorrow we'll work hard on training and missions, so you'll need a full dose of sleep. He starts walking away. See you at 7 in front of the Hokage Tower. Night. He disappears behind a corner, leaving us in silence. Shikamaru puts his hands in his pockets and start walking in the opposite direction in a not so different manner than our sensei, but from a midget without a cigarette it hasn't the same cool effect. Of course, he doesn't care at all, and that makes him cool. See you then. Bye, Ino, and I say in chorus. So, I turn toward her. I'll accompany you home. She's shocked for an instant. You don't have to. No, I don't. I agree, but it's a beautiful night and I like walking very much. Well, I don't live far from here. Are you sure? Yes, let's go. We walk side by side without talking. She seems embarrassed, but I'm really enjoying the fresh air and the silence. We reach her house, the first of a large complex all owned by the Yamanaka clan, and I accompany her till the front door. She fumbles with the keys for a while, her back to me, before turning around. Thanks, she says, looking at her feet. I smile at her, starting to step away. No problem. Good night. Night. I watch her enter the house before going back to the street. Oh. I'm running lightly through the woods near the south gate of the village, jumping back and forth between the trees' branches and the ground with a slow pace. I've been followed for 2 minutes now, but I almost reached the perfect spot. There, I see it already. I enter the clearing 5 seconds later. It's fairly big, wide, with just a lonely tree roughly in its middle. I slow down to a stop at a few meters from its trunk and wait for about a minute. Then I turn to my left and look between the bushes and right in a dark pair of eyes, now widening in shock. I sigh. Come out, Sasuke.
I have to wait 10 seconds before Uchiha Sasuke finally decides that yes, I've seen him, and yes, I've asked him to come out of the bushes. The boy steps hesitantly away from the shadow of the trees and enters the clearing. I watch him as he walks under the moonlight and in front of me. He's tense. Not a ready to attack kind of tense. More like a what the hell am I doing here? What do I do now? Kind. I let out a contented sigh as I plop down with my back against the lonely tree in the middle of the clearing. I lean my head against its trunk and for a moment, I just sit there with my eyes closed, breathing in all the wonderful smells of the forest. Did you catch a bell? I asked, turning to the boy and looking into his eyes. I'm honestly curious. I know he and his team passed. They always do, but the dynamics are often very different. He startles a little, not having expected the question, and then regards me annoyed. No, he grunts, looking away. You? I shake my head. No, our sensei didn't test us that officially. Then, why did you ask if I got a bell? He demands suspiciously. How did you know? He could have asked. I know Kakashi very well, I say, smiling a little while remembering something of the past about the silver-haired ninja. Konoha's secret technique. 1,000 years of pain is simply an indelible memory in my mind. Even though I only experienced it firsthand during my very first life, I resist the urge to rub my butt as I continue. Did you try and work with your teammates? Sasuke just looks at me with narrowed eyes before finally sitting down at a couple of meters from my tree. Not really, he then says. The girl tried to follow me, but she just ended up under a genjutsu. I snort with more annoyance than amusement. The girl has a name, Sakura, you know. I tell him, shaking my head. Anyway, if you really had teamed up, you could have stood a chance. He grumbles something incomprehensible, maybe agreeing with me. We remain in silence for some minutes. My head is now turned upwards to the clear dark sky. Many stars are visible behind the tree leaves rustled by a cold wind, and I find myself almost open-mouthed and fond of that sight. I sigh a little as I notice Sasuke isn't watching it at all. His gaze is fixed on me instead. I tilt my head to a side as I look into that dark pair of eyes. Why not? I ask myself. I never did it so early, just the second day of my new life, except in those where I really didn't care about anything and anybody. But I feel like doing it right now. I sound convincing in my own head, and the only other opinion I get is a growl from the Kyubbi. Strangely enough, the fox's reaction is what completely makes up my mind. I'm letting Sasuke in one of my many little secrets. Let's see how he reacts to the little prisoner inside of me. Do you know what the most terrible thing that happened to this village is, Sasuke? The boy furrows his brow, but before even he himself realizes it, I recognize it as a stupid question to ask him. No, don't answer that, I say, raising a hand. You most definitely think the answer is the Uchiha massacre. I interpret his glare as a yes. Oh, it was certainly a terrible event, very dramatic. But I think you're slightly biased on that matter. I frown a little, and now that I think about it, I guess I am biased as well. The Kyubbi agrees with me. You are, but biased doesn't necessarily mean wrong. And trust me, in this instance, you are both biased and right. I smile at that, and Sasuke's brow furrows furthermore in confusion. After all, he doesn't know I hear voices in my head. Yet, idiot, is my answer to the fox in the meantime. You're biased too. I hear the bastard chuckle as I speak out loud again. Anyway, do you really think that was the worst thing ever happened to this village? Think again. Sasuke narrows his eyes at first, but then complies and starts working on the possible right answer. After a couple of seconds, I finally see the light of understanding in his black irises. The Kyubbi no Kitsune's attack. He says slowly. Yes, I whisper with a sad smile. Hundreds of shinobis and villagers died that night. Every clan and almost every family in Konoha lost someone to the demon. Some were even completely wiped out forever. Can you see what that means? He nods slowly, and I can see in his eyes the images of dead Uchihas lying on the ground, drowning in pools of blood. Maybe you can, I say as he expertly blinks the memories away. And you sure as hell understand what all those families and clans feel about who took their loved ones away from them. I stop for a second. Were my eyes like Sasuke's when I really was a kid so many millions years ago? Did they always show everything that passed through my mind to those who were interested enough to pay attention to them? Because in those black irises of his, the boy is now showing me clearly the lean, dark form of Uchiha Itachi looking at me from a barely illuminated street. Sasuke sets his jaw and stiffens visibly, and I smile gently at him, resuming my speech. What do you know about the Kyubbi? The boy seems still a little upset, but he answers immediately. It's rare that Sasuke is so forthcoming. I guess my demonstration this morning made an impression of sort. It was. I correct him, and the fox in question grunts his approval in my head. He hates it when they refer to him as it. Sasuke just raises both eyebrows, but doesn't comment. He instead starts talking about the Kyubbi and doesn't finish until 2 or more minutes pass. He goes on, and I nod my way through his history lesson of sort. He clearly did his homework back at the academy. He made only a mistake, though a large one, but admittedly, it's not his fault. The Kyubbi no Kitsune was not killed by the Yondaime Hokage. Then tell me, I finally say, standing up. How did the Yondaime kill him? He stands up as well while reflecting about it, before shrugging. Maybe with a forbidden jutsu or one of his invention, or I interrupt his musings. I'll tell you. He looks at me with a blank face as I duck a little in his direction as if about to reveal a great secret. And that's exactly what I'm doing. He didn't. His puzzled expression prompts me to continue. The Yondaime didn't, or better couldn't kill the Kyubbi no Kitsune. I pause for a moment. All he could do was to seal him inside a newborn baby. Sasuke makes an interested expression and seems to be waiting for me to say something else. Then his eyes widen and his jaw drops open in realization. Why you? He stammers in a very small voice. I nod grimly. Yes, the Yondaime sealed him inside me at the cost of his life, and the third ordered that no one who didn't already know was to be informed about it. What I just told you is an S-class secret. There's a specific law that prohibits anyone from revealing it. I'm the only person in this village who can. And you are the first person I told, I say seriously as he plops down again, continuing to look up at my face. Stunned. Yes, I say, sitting next to him and looking up at the beautiful sky. That's why everybody hates me so much. After a couple of seconds, I turn towards Sasuke again and find him more composed, if a little wary. I grin internally. Oh boy, the Kyubbi sighs, and I can picture him rolling his huge red eyes. Here it comes. I meet Sasuke's dark, shocked eyes, and with a sad smile on my face, I say the sentence I always use when I reveal this secret to the Uchiha boy, a sentence that annoys the fox to no end. I'm everybody's Itachi. Yes, I'm a little drama queen. LOL. We talk for nearly 2 hours. Sasuke takes everything in relatively well. I'm a little creeped out that the first thing he asked me was if I could let the Kyubbi out. But for the most part, the conversation went like it always does. The fact that Sasuke is more than a little self-centered always helps. Yes, Uzumaki Naruto has a great secret and a great problem. But it's his secret, it's his problem. Sasuke doesn't really care all that much if those things don't affect him much. His last statement on the matter is self-explanatory. So this is why you beat me, he says, and I frown. Partially, yes, partially. I answer his growl with a chuckle. That's more to it than what I told you, I continue, grinning. But that's a story for another time, I think. The boy grumbles for a while, but then seems satisfied, partially at least. We part ways soon after that. LOL. The sounds of the forest keep me company as I walk home, lost in my musings. I'm a little sleepy, but I can't wipe this stupid grin off of my face. Who would have ever thought it would go this well? Sure, it took a little while, but in the end, the Uchiha boy accepted my dark secret very calmly. Maybe I should start each of my new lives like this, by revealing the presence of the Kyubbi inside me. Maybe there's no need to hide that secret at all. Whatever, I'll think about it when the time comes. I step out of the woods and into a street. It's still fairly early, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock, and the village is buzzing with activity. I bow my way through all the glares and sneers, and reach my apartment's building. I immediately feel them on both sides of the street and beyond the main door I'm reaching. They're concealing their presence, but not enough for me not to sense them. They're many, and they're ANBU. And that means there is someone important in the immediacies. My money is on the Hokage in my apartment. I don't hesitate in the slightest, thus avoiding alerting them. and go up the stairs, soon finding myself in front of my door. I'm about to unlock it and enter when I finally sense his presence beyond it. The Sandaime is clearly the best shinobi of this village. I very much doubt anyone else could have concealed himself this well from me. And he probably isn't even trying that hard. I pause for an instant before smiling behind the solid door. It's about the only solid thing I have in my apartment. Let's just say it's a necessity. Hey Ojiasan, are you here to finally give me my hat? I ask right as I open it and step in. The Hokage's expression is priceless, even if it lasts for barely a second before his features go blank and then gentle again. I grin cheekily at him, closing the door with my foot. I'm afraid it's still a little early for that. Naruto-kun, he answers, checking me intently in my new clothes. Yeah, no orange there, old man. The Sandaime is sitting on my battered sofa in all his Hokage self. The robe and hat are there, and so is his game face. I guess this is a business visit after all. Let's act properly then. What can I do for you then, Hokage-sama? I ask seriously, and both his eyebrows rise a little at the unusual form of address, unusual coming from me. Then he chuckles a little, but I can see wariness in him now. Why don't you sit down here? He says, patting the pierced cushion next to him. I want to talk with you about something. I comply, feeling a little uncomfortable. Asuma already told him that I probably know of my furry prisoner, and this conversation can be very important for both our lives. I hope he's willing to take a couple of steps in my direction, because I'm willing to do it in his. I break the awkward silence first. I'm glad your son is my new sensei, and I'm glad to hear that. The Hokage smiles, visibly happy about that. He told me your team is very good and he is excited about teaching you. He was particularly impressed by your knowledge of the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and by your proficiency in it. He nods his head at me in a little bow of sort, and I am as well. It isn't a rank jutsu after all and very difficult to master. He pauses for an instant. Where did you learn it from? I duck my head a little, twisting my hands in nervous gestures and looking appropriately guilty. I sort of took that big scroll in your house. I'm sorry. I bet my contrived expression is painful to just watch it on this cute little face of mine. Naruto, the Hokage chastises me, half angry and half shocked. I continue to play the part of a guilty 12 years old as the old man recomposes himself. I meet his eyes and let mine water a little. I'm really sorry, but I always put everything back in its place and didn't damage anything, I swear. The Sandaime opens his mouth in shock. Everything. He stammers a little. Naruto, how many of my scrolls did you read? I look away, apparently ashamed, and I actually feel a little ashamed for lying to the old man like this. Every one I could find. I whisper in a very small voice. This time it takes a little longer for the Hokage to shout my name, but he does it in the end. Naruto, I'm utterly shocked. He takes a deep breath. How did you do that? What follow are a long and detailed description of my stealth capabilities and tactics, and then an even longer and more detailed list of all the jutsus I learned thanks to them. I had made Hokage in many of my past lives after all, and those big scrolls became mine eventually. All the paperwork and filing I had to do during my Rokudaime or sometimes Godaime days come in handy as I list down jutsu after jutsu. The Kyubi's supernatural memory is especially helpful, but I check his reminders carefully before offering them to the old man. The fox isn't exactly the most reliable source, and it wouldn't be the first time he tried to screw me somehow. Sure enough, the bastard lists down a genjutsu that I know can't possibly be in the Hokage Tower at this time. I avoid mentioning it to the Sandaime, as well as a couple of other jutsus I'm not really sure about. I internally growl at my prisoner and he cackles at me, not really disappointed in not having succeeded. The old Sarutobi is visibly shocked and impressed despite trying to hide it. He asks me repeatedly if I really know how to use this ninjutsu or that seal, but in the end, he lets me finish my list without speaking. Still, I can see him carefully registering everything I'm saying. The following silence lasts a lot longer and is a lot more awkward than any of the previous ones. The Hokage looks at me completely expressionless. I can't read anything that is going through his mind, though I can probably guess. He then surprises me. He grins, a real grin. Then he chuckles once, a second time, a third. What the hell? I grin too, more confused than anything else, but I repeat it. What the hell? Naruto. The Hokage uses my name with a different tone this time, amusement evident in his voice and features. I'm really impressed. I'm sure I should probably be lecturing you right now, telling you that what you did was wrong and dangerous, but I find myself unable to. I cannot help but being proud of you. He pauses, his eyes bright as I smile at him, scratching the back of my head, a little embarrassed. Then, looking up into his old eyes, I see a flash of something. An image, vanishing as quickly as it had appeared, of a blonde boy trying to sneak away with a couple of scrolls in his arms. It's just an instant before that flash backs again deep into the Hokage's eyes, but it was long enough for me to recognize the boy. My smile widens hugely at the failed stunt of one Namikaze Minato, Yondaime of Konoha, and my father. Thank you, Oji-san, I say more than a little happy. It's always good to learn something new about your parents, especially when it's also something funny. You're welcome. The Sandaime answers with something very akin to affection in his voice. But know that I'll increase the security on those scrolls, maybe even moving them somewhere else, so I expect you to be at least more challenged in reaching them. I chuckle. I don't think I'll have much time for that anyway. I'm a genin now, I say, puffing my chest exaggeratedly. Yes, you are, the Hokage agrees, smiling. We talk for a long while. He asks me about my team and sensei. I ask him about missions and jutsus. He asks me about Iruka and my exam. I ask him about Mizuki and his arrest. Small talk between shinobis, in short. We know the juicy topic is another one, but we both are content with circling around it for the time being. Still, that's just postponing the inevitable. And in fact, Naruto, he starts, sighing, I didn't come here to talk about this, nor about your knowledge of advanced jutsus you should not have known. I smile at his last little jab before getting serious again. Is it because of what I told Asuma-sensei at dinner? There is a long silence before he answers. His last hopes about me not knowing are slowly vanishing. Yes. Is it because I know the Yondaime sealed the Kyubbi no Kitsune inside me? The Hokage here lets out a shuddering breath, clasping his hands on his lap tightly. Yes. I smile sadly at him. If you're worrying about me, Oji-san, don't. Please. I'm okay. I've known for a long while. Longer than you can imagine, old man. How did you find out? He asks me softly, and I come up with a credible lie real quick. Well, not really. I already used it countless of times in the past. I overheard 2 villagers talking about your law, I say, hesitating a little. And then I remembered all those times someone shouted at me, called me monster or demon, and I understood why. You are not a monster, Naruto, the Sandaime tells me forcefully, putting his hands on my shoulders and turning me to face him completely. Nor a demon. You are a good boy and now a shinobi of the leaf. The steel in the Hokage's voice and eyes is moving. Really, I'm not affected by the situation anymore. This thing I'm putting up is just an act, but it's actually nice to hear the old man telling me these things. I know, I whisper with bright, sad eyes. And the award as best actor in a leading role goes to Uzumaki Naruto, and woe is me. I internally berate myself. I'm starting to revert a little, hardly acting like the old man I actually am. Sure, it always happens in the first period of every one of my new lives. But this situation is serious, especially for the man in front of me. I shouldn't take it this lightly. Besides, he's speaking again and I really should listen to him. The Yondaime sealed the Kyubbi inside you because he knew you would have protected this village, the Hokage says softly but firmly. And you're proving him right. You're doing it despite how people treat you, and I know that one day you will conquer them all with your heart. Okay, now things are starting to get a little too sappy and saccharine for my taste. Still, the Sandaime is convinced he's talking with a 12-years-old boy, and I guess this speech could have made the real 12-years-old Naruto dissolve into sobs and tears. Should I? I hesitate a little before giving up. I don't feel emotional enough at the moment to attempt that major acting stunt. I duck my head a little instead, as if to hide my watering eyes. The Hokage's hands squeeze my shoulders, trying to comfort me. The Yondaime wanted the village to see you as the hero who saved Konoha and its inhabitants. The old man continues, unaware of my inner turmoil. But I failed him and you both, because I wasn't able to make that happen. His voice cracks a little in the end, and though my head is still low, I'm reasonably sure there are tears in his eyes. I feel like shit right now. Not at a level where I could sob and cry for real, but we're near that point. Hell, the Hokage, I repeat, the Hokage is here, hard on his sleeve and apologizing to me, and what am I doing? I'm lying and pretending. I hope this conversation is over very soon. Wait, scratch that. I'm going to do something about it. Don't worry about that, Oji-san. I lift my head, trying to ignore the unshed tears on the man's eyes. I really don't care about that. I'm not a hero for having the Kyubbi sealed inside me, and nobody should treat me like one for it. The Yondaime is for defeating him. I smile at the man and brace myself for what I'm about to say. But I'll soon be a great shinobi and the best Hokage Konoha will ever have, and I'll do like you said. I'll finally conquer them all with my heart. My voice and stare are firm and determined, but I'm gagging internally as the demon fox howls in laughter. Still, the Sandaime's expression appears as resolute as my fake one, and he really seems to believe in it and in me. That mitigates the bitterness I feel because of the bastard cackling in my head. Oh God, the Kyubbi says breathlessly after a while. And you want me to give up all this fun just to let you rest? Hell no. He cackles some more and I grit my teeth. I'll never let you go. He shouts between chuckles, and his voice takes the typical psychotic quality it always gets when blood is shed. You will destroy and kill forever because I'm saying so. Dance for me, you little bitch. That's when I shut him off. It's already hard to act and pretend in front of an accomplished shinobi. But with also an annoying demon speaking in your head is too much. Besides, the Kyubbi was clearly on a tangent there, and would have neither stopped nor said anything interesting for a while. I decide to chase the bastard out of my mind then. and give my whole attention to the Hokage on my couch. I'm just grateful I learned this useful trick in my first life. If not, I don't think I would have remained sane much longer. The old Sarutobi is smiling fondly at me. I feel better now that I know there is someone capable to take my place when the time comes. Yeah, I say, and my cheeky grin can finally return to my lips. You're covered there, Oji-san. Don't worry. The conversation goes on for a little longer. The Sandame tells me everything he knows about the seal on my belly and its effects on my body and growth. He leaves a couple of holes about why the Yondaime chose me and who my parents were. He doesn't exactly lie to me. He just swims far away from those particular topics. I don't want to make him feel uncomfortable, nor do I want to make him break his promise to my father, so I just play the part of the oblivious and a little obtuse boy and nod my head asking the expected questions. Roughly half an hour later, the old man really has to go. He probably had to cancel one or more of his appointments for this little chat, but I guess it was important to him. He stands up, stretching his legs and spine like I often did just 2 days ago. I can sympathize with him greatly as he grimaces at the popping sounds of his joints. I'm glad we had this conversation, he tells me after a second. Me too, I agree. I would offer you ramen, but sadly I really have things to do. No problem, Oji-san. I hope those things aren't paperwork. The Hokage reaches my apartment's door, chuckling a little before sighing tiredly. They are, unfortunately. Well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? I say softly, smiling at him. He turns around, slowly opening the door and regarding me with determined eyes, the deeper meaning of my sentence not lost to him. Right, he whispers before stepping outside. Then he closes the door and his presence slowly fades away from my senses. Oh. It's the third day of this new life and it's raining. Dark clouds cover the sky, blocking the sunlight from passing through and declaring the beginning of a new morning. It seems like the night wanted a couple of hours more. The villagers of Konoha are just now starting to open their shops, but it's strange to see them doing it in the darkness. They all give the impression of robbers or something. I often wondered why it doesn't always rain the third day of my new lives. Some lives, the 17th of October is just gloomy, some others are just a little cloudy or even sunny. One would think that the Kyubbi and I can't really influence the weather, but it seems strange that it can change this much in just 2 days. Anyway, I abandoned the idea of solving this mystery a lot of existences ago, but I still can't help but being fascinated by it. I'm walking calmly through puddles and trickles, an improvised umbrella in my right hand. It's all made of wood. Not the best option, I admit it, but it was quick work and I didn't spend money on it. Just a quick fusion involving water and earth and there it was, a homemade wooden umbrella. There are neither thunders nor lightning at the moment, so I feel pretty much safe. My creation is perfectly succeeding in keeping me from getting soaked, so I'm rather happy with it. And besides, it's nice to see the cascading waterfall when I tilt it a little. I soon reach the Hokage Tower where I have to meet with my team, but it's still a little early so I'm not expecting to find them. Though I'm almost certain I'll find another person. Sure enough, neither Shikamaru, nor Ino, nor Asuma are there. But Hyuga Hinata is. The girl is standing right in front of the open doors leading to the tower, with her hands in her jacket's pockets and her shoulders slightly hunched. It's not very cold today despite the weather and hour, but standing in the rain certainly isn't healthy. And that hood of hers doesn't seem to help very much. I'm next to her now and she still hasn't seen me. I can be very sneaky when I want to. I grin mischievously, enlarging my wooden umbrella to cover her as well, before speaking. Hey Hinata, how are you doing? At the sound of my voice, the Hyuga heir startles a little and turns around. It doesn't take long before her face is completely purple. After a couple of seconds of staring, she seems to properly realize that I'm right next to her, that I'm using my umbrella to protect her against the rain and that I just asked her a question thus starting a conversation. The result of this realization is a little strangled sound as she jumps away from me. Ah, did I scare you? I take a step forward and cover her again from the rain. Sorry, I didn't mean to. And no, and Naruto. You just surprised me, she says in a very small voice, looking down at her feet. Her hands are out of her pockets now, and guess what are her forefingers doing? Are you waiting for your team to take a mission? I ask her and she just nods. Me too. It will be our first one. Yesterday we just talked and trained a little. Thousands and thousands of years of experience taught me that the teenage Hinata needs to be forcefully dragged into a conversation if you want her to do something more than just nod and shake her head. Questions requiring elaborate answers are the best way. And you, what did you do with your team? We talked. And, sparred. The girl stammers, her face beet red. I bet you kicked Shino and Kiba around with that Juuken of yours, eh? I nudge her slightly with my elbow, causing a lot of water to fall from the front of the umbrella and onto the ground. Hinata lets out something similar to a gasp, if because of the sight or because of our contact, I don't know. No, they are too strong, she says. I smile at her and wait enough before answering that she raises her gaze and sees that smile. Don't say that, Hinata-chan, I reprimand her lightly. You're very strong. and very nice, and very pretty. At these words, she tries and fails to speak, then looks down and sways dangerously on her legs as if about to fall to the ground. I steady her, switching my umbrella to my left hand and circling my now free right arm around her shoulders. I can't see her expression because she just turned her head to the other side, but I have a pretty good idea of what color I would find on her face. Enjoying her body leaning against mine, I pretend to be holding my long-lost wife in my arms before finally stepping back. I keep my hand on her shoulder a second longer and make sure she won't pass out suddenly, but then I let her go. She's still with her back to me, but I can hear her breathing hard over the continuous sound of the raindrops on my wooden umbrella. I smile a little and wonder if I went a little too far too soon. Shrugging slightly to myself, I sense a couple of people getting near. Ino reaches us running, a blue jacket covering her head and more importantly her hair. I hope she didn't use any makeup this morning or she will resemble more a clown than a ninja by the end of the day. Shino instead is walking calmly towards us, a dark green raincoat covering almost every inch of his body. Kikai bugs don't like water very much. Good morning, Ino, Shino, I greet them cheerily. The Aburame boy just nods at me in acknowledgement, while Ino grumbles something irritably under her breath. I focus a little on the wooden creation I hold in hand, managing to enlarge it to cover both newcomers. But my umbrella now has more the characteristics of a small dome. My fellow genins don't seem to mind the imperfections in its shape though, at least judging by how they stare at it and at me afterwards. Even Hinata turns around enough for a quick odd glance. Show off anyone. I grin and nod my head at Shino and Ino. How are you? The Aburame takes his cue and lets the matter slide. Fine, thanks, he says. Aren't our senseis here yet? I shake my head. Kurenai-sama is, but she's spying on us from under a genjutsu. I grin mischievously, turning a little. Wouldn't you rather stand here under my umbrella, sensei? A couple of seconds later, after a little burst of smoke and a quiet poof sound, where once was only the gray wall of the Hokage tower, now there is Yuyui Kurenai, looking rather impressed. Thank you, she answers softly, respectfully greeted by all us genins, as she moves under the protection of my dome. I enlarge the wood a little more to let us stay comfortable. Though I wasn't spying on you, I was merely observing, she adds with a meaningful look at me. Considering what she just saw, she probably thinks I have a Kekkei Genkai related to the Mokuton and is wondering where the hell it came from. It's not true, obviously. I don't possess any bloodline ability, but I discovered that it's not true that only those who have it can control two different elements simultaneously. It's just that you need a lot more time to get the skill without one. It took me decades of very intense Taijukage Bunshin no Jutsu training on just that, to manage it. But, of course, I would think of a Kekkei Genkai as well if I was her. I just nod at the Jounin in acknowledgement as Shikamaru joins us. The umbrella is now starting to attract the attention of quite a few passersby and ninjas from the tower. I bow a little towards them, and when they see Kurenai-sensei beyond the waterfall produced by my dome, they retreat back to their positions. Isn't it H-heavy? Hinata stammers, probably ready to step in the rain again for the sake of my arm. No, I reassure her. It's just wood. I knock on the handle with my free hand. So you're practically holding a mushroom-shaped tree with one hand, Shikamaru says, knocking on the handle himself. Yeah, but it's hollow here. I point at the concave part of the dome above us. Hi, Shikamaru. He just waves lazily with his hand at my greeting. I don't know how he is capable of that, but absolutely everything he does looks lazy. We talk for a couple of minutes more, before Kiba and then Asuma join us in short order. What's this? Yuzuka asks, eyeing my umbrella. He starts shaking his head forcefully, causing the water on his hood to fly in all directions and eliciting complaints and grumbles from us. Akamaru on his head just barks twice in amusement. I propose to kick Kiba out of the umbrella, Ino says, wiping the raindrops from the boy's water attack off her face. I second that. Shino agrees, cleaning his sunglasses. He ignores perfectly all the stares of us genins towards him and his not hidden eyes, but he's quite hasty in putting them back under cover. Asuma clears his voice. I instead propose to enter the tower and get a mission. I second that. Kurenai says at once, and soon enough our two senseis are urging us through the building doors and inside. Before joining my fellow genins, I let my umbrella shrink and then disappear under the watchful gaze of the two jounins and the guards. We have to wait a couple of minutes before the Hokage receives us. He's studying some papers with a couple of assistants when we enter the room, but he immediately raises his gaze and smiles at us. Teammate reporting for assignment, Kurenai states loudly, standing at attention. What she said, Asuma mumbles, lighting up a cigarette, but we're Team 10. I grin amused at that, while the others just exchange perplexed glances. The Hokage sighs. Yes, Team 8, Team 10, I have quite a few D-rank missions ready for you, he says, starting to rummage through a pile of sheets on his desk. There are a flooded house to fix and a young man to escort to the market, for example. What do you say? Women first, Asuma offers, nodding to Kurenai. The young Jounin thinks it over for a couple of seconds before taking her decision. We'll take the trip to the market, Hokage-sama. Yes, I cheer, only to receive a couple of skeptic looks from my teammates. Then we'll take the flooded house, Asuma agrees, after the proceedings are executed. Strangely enough, it's the time necessary for the bearded ninja to smoke his cigarette. We're out of the tower and in the rain again. Teammate soon walks away in the opposite direction than the one we have to take. Hinata shyly glancing back at me once. Very well, Asuma starts. The house is in the 10th district. We'll go there running. It will be a good warm-up. He doesn't wait for an answer and instead begins jogging away immediately. When he's sure we're following him, he starts his lesson of sword. Okay, any one of you has any idea to suggest for this flooded house? Naruto, you seemed pretty happy with this assignment. The two genins running next to me want to hear it as well. But I certainly cannot tell them I remember completing this mission in countless of my past lives and having a lot of fun doing it, right? Well, first I didn't want the other assignment available. I say with a frown, and that's not a lie. It's boring as hell. And the young man to escort the Hokage talked about is an annoying brat I would prefer not to meet ever again. Then I thought that with all this rain, we'll be soaked to the bone by the end of the day anyway. And on top of it, I take a brief pause to let my enthusiastic grin make an effect. If whoever is suffering from this flooding has decided to actually pay for some ninjas to take care of it instead of doing it himself, then the house condition is probably that of a freaking swimming pool. There is a moment of puzzled silence before Shikamaru speaks up, and that's a good reason to take this mission because he prompts me and I frown at him. Hello, I said swimming pool, water probably at waist level. That means calf level to me. Asuma interrupts my excited speech with a jab against my height. You don't even know if we're talking about water here. Ino adds, shuddering exaggeratedly. And the only thing I like about swimming pools is sleeping at their borders under the sun. Thing I won't be able to do during this assignment, Shikamaru finishes lamely. Fine, I shrug at them with a tight smile. Complain all you want. We'll see who is right in a couple of hours or so. I scoff haughtily at them. You won't spoil my fun. Oh. We're inside the house now, precisely on the stairs leading down to the cellar. The water reaches the middle of said stairs. Roughly 10 feet of water then, cloudy, tepid water almost completely still. The spoilt pipe responsible of this disaster has already been repaired by a villager, so all we have to do is toss this water out of the house. I could use hundreds of jutsus to do it, but why should I? These missions are meant to train us genins. No. I watch my two teammates. Shikamaru seems annoyed and Ino is looking down at the gray waters with a horrified expression. The Nara boy has stripped down to his boxers like me, but she stubbornly refused to undress herself, except for her shoes, socks, and forehead protector, despite I told her repeatedly that there was a high risk of ending up in the water. Naruto, I hate you, she says in a harsh whisper. Oh come on. I nudge her, grinning. It will be over quickly. We have these buckets, we have that window. What else could we need? I glance at the little window a little above the water from where we have to pass the buckets to Asuma-sensei and my two cage bunshins outside, who will have to empty those buckets into the big container and then bring them back to us to start again. I could have made more cage bunshins and more buckets, but the Hokage's son told me not to, much to my secret agreement. I decided not to declare this agreement openly when my fellow genins launched themselves in colorful curses against the unfairness of it all. Still, my grin probably gave my opinion on the matter away. I gather a little of my chakra on my left thumb and forefinger and manipulate it into the earth and water elements respectively. I need only a thought to mold and shape the wood I just created. And in a couple of seconds, I have a good approximation of a one-man boat at my feet. I push it gently down the stairs into the still waters beneath, where it starts floating and swaying slightly. Are you sure that thing will bear your weight? Shikamaru asks me skeptically. I wiggle my eyebrows at him. Let's find out. I put a bare foot on the wood, carefully testing its solidity, and then move the other foot on board as well. The boat rocks a little at first, but then just floats forward, apparently bearing my weight. I let out a relieved sigh. I still wasn't completely sure if I had made its keel thick enough. Okay, it seems safe. I'll make your own now. When I finish, Shikamaru steps tentatively on his boat, followed even more tentatively by Ino. Now, buckets in hand, I'm making my wooden creations move towards the window on the other side of the cellar. Making the water pass from that little opening will be definitely faster than carrying it through the house itself and then its yard. It's a shortcut, and the boats are just a tool to get us to that shortcut. I, of course, could have simply walked on the water, but I didn't reveal this little thing to my team yet. Are you ready in there? One of my clones shouts from outside. I can see his stupid face from where he's crouched down in front of the open window. We're coming, I grumble at him. The first 10 minutes go by very smoothly. We fill our buckets, give them to Asuma and my clones one by one. The window is not very large, and then we get the wooden buckets back again and repeat the process. I left my weights on the stairs with my clothes when we undressed, and now I feel like I could move a mountain and reach the faraway village of the mist with just a jump. I'm practically bursting with energy, and I would work even faster if I could. Shikamaru and Ino seem to have no problem either, despite the boy's thin body and the girl's tiny arms. They're ninjas too, and they train to become ninjas for a lot of time. But apparently, running away from angry mobs and partially living into the wild are a better way to gain a muscular body, because mine is by far more defined than theirs. Or maybe, having a fox demon inside your belly is to thank for that. On a side note, I caught the Yamanaka girl staring at my body thrice already in the last time. When she noticed that I had noticed, she blushed furiously, almost falling in the waters as she immediately turned around on her boat and making it rock wildly. Anyway, we're progressing quickly now, judging by how the level of the water is visibly lowering. Sadly, the window will be out of reach soon, and guess what will happen then? Bye-bye shortcut. Hello long route. We postpone the loss by trying and hinging into taller versions of ourselves. But after a while that we're doing that, the boats start rocking dangerously, not being able to bear any more weight. I think we can't use the window any longer, Ino says, wiping her sweated forehead. Yeah, I nod. We'll have to pass from the house. We share the inevitable decision with Asuma, and after a couple of seconds of hesitation he agrees. He's clearly perplexed by my skills, considering what I showed him today. And that's just a tiny portion of what I can do. He knows I could easily get around the problem and, for example, create pillars of wood or even stairs leading to the useful window. But I won't do that, thank you very much. Take us back to the stairs, Naruto, Shikamaru says, nodding towards them. I comply, focusing a little on my creations, and in the meantime my grin becomes huge. You know, I have complete control on these boats, I say, turning around to face my teammates. Just as I can move them forward, I could, I don't know, make them disappear, for example, with just a snap of my fingers. Ah, very funny, the Yamanaka girl says, annoyed from her own boat. What do you think, Shikamaru? Isn't Ino ready for a peaceful, relaxing bath? My sadistic grin is directed at her now as I raise my right hand and ready my thumb and middle finger. The boat stops moving. She freezes on her spot and then her eyes widen fearfully. Shikamaru snickers a little. You wouldn't dare. She gasps. I'm giving you 5 seconds to let you undress. If you do it, I'll kill you. She threatens me, but I just smirk at her. 5. Don't. She shrieks as I make her boat rock a little for the excitement of the crowd. 4. She hesitates an instant, her expression half furious, half horrified, before she pulls her pullover off. 3. She's discarding her trousers now and screwing them into a ball with angry gestures. 2. She tosses her clothes towards the stairs, succeeding in avoiding the water in between. 1. She's wearing only a white t-shirt now and a couple of yellow shorts with blue horizontal lines. She has nice legs for a 12-year-old girl, but her breast hasn't grown much yet. Still, I'm a hormone-driven boy at the moment, and the sight obtains a little reaction. Ino's eyes are fixed on mine, promising me the most terrible of pains in a very near future. I smile at her and then move my gaze on Nara Shikamaru. The smile on his face doesn't even have the time to morph into something else as I snap my fingers, making his boat shrink on itself and leaving the boy hovering for a seemingly interminable moment. Then gravity makes its job and Shikamaru drops underwater with a lasting complete. You bast. I start laughing at that and, turning towards Ino, I see her giggling a little, probably relieved. Then she notices my fingers are still in position. Snapping them isn't even necessary, but it's nice to see the light of realization enter the girl's eyes because of it. Shikamaru comes back to the surface, right as Ino falls underneath it. He coughs out some water and looks angry at me, but there is a spark of amusement in his dark eyes as well, though probably because of Ino's expression when she's visible again. Her long blonde hair are slicked to her head and face as she takes a deep breath before spitting around, apparently disgusted, and emitting particularly funny snort-like noises. She pushes her hair away from her eyes with frantic gestures, just to find where I am, glare at me and launch herself in my direction with every ill intent of this world. Naruto is her angry shout. I, of course, cannot stop laughing, and that's probably irritating her even more. She reaches me soon, spraying water everywhere, and, not knowing if rock my boat or knock me down, she tries both and in the end manages to throw me off balance. Not that I made an effort whatsoever to prevent that. I even had to stifle my instincts that wanted me to use chakra under my feet and just walk on the waters. When I come up from the water, I'm still laughing, and she hits my head a couple of times before snarling something I don't understand and starting towards the stairs where Shikamaru is already seated, looking rather annoyed with the top of his hair wilted. The water is tepid and pleasant, and I just swim slowly around in the little cellar, chuckling all the while. Naruto, you're an idiot. BRRR, I'm cold, you bastard. You're gonna pay. I'm gonna torture you and then kill you. I listen with half an ear to Ino's incoherent babbling about my incoming death. Still, looking up at the ceiling, I cannot help the contented sigh that escapes my lips. It was a good prank. The 12-year-old Naruto would have approved. Oh. Water splashes on me from above. I could have avoided it, but why should have I bothered? Just to save my clothes from getting drenched. Not worthy, especially considering it's still raining. Besides, this means more fun. I look up to see a smirking Ino on the house roof. I sense Shikamaru on my right, and sure enough, another full bucket is emptied on me by my traitorous teammate. He too is smirking. You both know this means war, right? I tell them, shaking the wooden bucket in my hand lightly. Water spills a little from its edges. Pity it won't end up into the container. We had almost finished. Hey, we're even now, Ino exclaims, outraged. My answer doesn't come from me, but from the clone I just sent behind her. No, we aren't, he says. And though I can't see him from down here, I know he's grinning. I enjoy Ino's shocked expression for a moment, before turning to a still smirking Shikamaru. His shadow tries to trap me a second later, but I just jump away from it. Start undressing again, Shika, I say with a grin of my own, raising my bucket a little as a girly shriek resonates from the roof. This is all for you. LOL. If there is something Asuma is really good at, that's creating bonds. Not that he's a shabby teacher or ninja either, not at all. But he's simply on a league of his own when it comes to establishing or helping relationships. I cannot remember ever being in a dysfunctional or even just awkward team of which he was the sensei. He's present when he has to, and gives you time when you need it. He's watchful, but far from oppressive. And he's fun. That helps bonding a lot. It isn't surprising then that we're at Mitsuruka's again, dining all together. The place is far more crowded today, thanks to the late hour. Few villagers and lots of shinobis are talking and laughing at their tables, enough sake in their bottles to help them loosening up without getting drunk. I received a couple of death or bewildered glares entering, but nothing out of the ordinary, and my smile didn't leave its rightful place on my lips. It's been a good day. We completed our first mission in little more than 3 hours and then went to train for the rest of the morning. We sparred mostly, fighting and struggling despite rain and mud, and enjoying the weather conditions way too much. After a light lunch, we started discussing the flooded house mission. Asuma took us by a river on the training ground number 17 and made us try the water walking exercise, which he said would have simplified our first mission and saved us from undesired baths. He also mentioned that working on it would improve our chakra control greatly. I pretended not to be able to do it already, but both the Hokage son and Shikamaru raised their eyebrows at me when I magically succeeded on my first try. Ino seemed too busy with the exercise to notice. However, she had immediately discarded her pullover, shoes, and trousers this time around. Anyway, neither of my fellow genins was successful, but in the early evening, Shikamaru managed 3 steps before sinking down, waist deep into the water. As my teammates struggled to maintain a constant flow of chakra under their feet, Asuma tested me on my knowledge and skill with the wood manipulation. Let's just say I impressed him. It's not every day you see a 12 years old capable of making good use of elemental chakra, let alone 2 simultaneously. The bearded ninja particularly liked the fact that I don't have to necessarily use seals to do it. He asked me if it was a bloodline ability, but I told him that to my knowledge, I don't possess any. I told him I knew the first Hokage had been the only one able to use the Mokyuten here in Konoha, and I suggested with a cheeky grin that maybe I was related to the Shodai. He accepted the answer, internally blaming the thing on my furry prisoner, probably. Anyway, he's obviously starting to understand how stronger than what he expected I really am, and it won't take much before he really confronts me on that. It will be an interesting conversation. The funny thing is I remember having it already. Many times. When it got dark, Asuma called a halt. The rain had subsided a little throughout the afternoon, but we still were completely drenched, not to say dirty. The Hokage son sent us to a well-deserved shower and told us to meet him in front of Mitsuruka's in an hour, where we are now. I'm probably halfway through the meal, having already wolfed down my donberry and proceeding to pounce on the grilled carp. It smells delicious. Another mission tomorrow, right, sensei? I ask before having a taste of the cooked fish in front of me. Asuma takes a sip from his bottle of sake before answering. Yes, though more than one if we manage. We'll continue our training on taijutsu and chakra control in the afternoon. He pulls out his packet of cigarettes and starts toying with it. Today we did fairly well. I think I'm getting the hang of this sensei thing. I chuckle a little as Shikamaru rolls his eyes. I think you started liking this sensei thing too much already. The Nara boy grunts irritably and the Hokage son shrugs, smiling cheerily. Maybe. It's been fun today. You have to admit it, I say, grinning and swallowing a mouthful of carp. I found the boat ride especially entertaining. I liked it more when we spilt those buckets of water on you, Ino retorts, smirking at me. Shikamaru just huffs, but he's clearly amused as well. That was fun too, I agree, smiling. Our conversation is interrupted as Mitsuruka's daughter, Karina, puts more tea and sake on our table. I thank her sweetly and she just reddens furiously, starting to grab the empty bottles with expert gestures to take them hastily back to the kitchen. Leave her alone, Ino growls in a small voice, leaning towards me to not be overheard by the dark-haired girl. Don't you see you're embarrassing her? I make sure my answering whisper is loud enough for Karina to catch, though still pretending that's not my intention by shielding my mouth with my hand. but she's really cute when she blushes. It's the truth, and I can ascertain it once more as she walks away from our table. Her face beat red, the empty bottle's a little imbalanced in her hands and arms. My little stunt gets me a swat from a glaring Ino, a disgusted expression from Shikamaru, and a grin from Asuma. The bearded ninja finally lights up his cigarette, his lips still twisted upwards. Poor Karina. She's a very nice girl, but also very shy. He says, shaking his head a little. I can introduce her to you, Naruto, though I'll probably be banned from this restaurant by Mitsuruka-san forever. Nah, don't trouble yourself, sensei, I reply with a grin of my own. I know you enjoy this place too much and wouldn't want you to risk it for me. Still, I could probably arrange a torrid clandestine date for you, if you want to, he teases, trying to embarrass me and only obtaining a blush from Ino. Can we stop discussing that? The blonde girl steps in harshly. She quickly fishes for a different topic. When could we do higher missions than D rank, sensei? Probably in a couple of months, he answers before ducking his head a little towards us. We all mirror him, sure he's about to whisper us something important. But going back to that torrid clandestine date, we all let out a groan, though mine comes out more like a snort. Asuma just smiles amused, but lets the matter drop eventually. After some time, we're out of the restaurant and in the rain again. It's a fine drizzle now, and it actually feels pleasant on my head and face. The near street lamp throws its yellow light on the puddles underneath, which almost seem to want to throw it back at it. I'm stuck in the middle of this light fight of sort, and, as a result, I have to narrow my eyes a little. I produce a wooden umbrella with my right hand and step near Ino to shelter her and get away from that annoying yellow light show. Want one, sensei? Shikamaru, I ask, nodding towards the wood. They shake their heads. No thanks, I'll be home in a flash anyway, Asuma says, smirking. See you tomorrow. Same time, same place. He waves his hand at us before performing a seal and disappearing in a vortex of leaves. Now that's a useful trick, not walking on water. Shikamaru grumbles, yawning widely. He starts walking away. Well, I'm off too. Good night, I say to his retreating back, and he just waves lazily at me. I turn towards Ino with a smile and gesture her to lead the way. Shall we? This time she seems less embarrassed as I walk her home. Oh, sometimes all my life feels like a long déjà vu. But that's to be expected. I experience so many situations in my countless existences that it's actually hard for me to find something new. Still, this is stretching things. I'm being followed. Again, and focusing a little, I think I know by whom. He just stepped on a fallen leaf and rustled a bush on my right. He smells faintly of soap, maybe of old blood as well. His chakra signature is very weak, as if he's trying to conceal it, but he isn't doing a very good job on that. Finally, I catch a glimpse of dark hair and pale skin, and I groan slightly. Not again. Stopping in the first clearing I come across, I immediately turn in his precise direction. I had hoped it was someone else, someone stronger. I had been itching for a good fight for a while. All this incredible energy my young body seems to be bursting with needs an outlet after all. But I don't think my pursuer can really put it up against me. Still, there's no reason not to try. Come out, Sasuke. I roll my eyes as he steps into the clearing with a rather annoyed frown on his face. He probably tried to be as careful as possible this time around, and was sure I would not detect him. I snort a little. It will take you, billions of years to successfully hide from me, kiddo. However, his determined expression seems promising. Maybe I'll be lucky tonight. You wanted a fight yesterday, right? I ask him, pulling out my new black jacket and tossing it at the foot of a tree nearby. It completely stopped raining now, but here in the woods, water drops every now and then from the branches above. Well, I want one today. I grin at the boy in front of me, enjoying the cool breeze on my bare arms. What do you say? I receive my answer when Sasuke's jacket joins mine under the tree. Perfect. I guess I'm lucky after all.
Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.